the media capital of the world.
Good evening and welcome to an online joint meeting of the Burbank City Council on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. In order to balance the health risks associated with COVID-19 and the public's right to conduct the people's business in a transparent and open manner during the current state of emergency, and in the interest of public health and safety, council members will be participating in an online city council meeting. The public will not be able to physically attend today's meeting. In lieu of in-person attendance, the city is providing alternatives for viewing and participating in city council meetings. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you. Councilmember Ghiberletti.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Talamantes.
Present.
Vice Mayor Frutos.
Very groovy afternoon. Happy to be here, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you. And Mayor Springer.
Here.
Thank you.
There will be one period of joint general public comment this evening. The public will be able to comment on any matter concerning city business and or any agenda item. If you wish to participate, please call in now at 818-238-3335. Callers will be placed in a queue until we begin public comment. We have 6 announcements this evening. The Burbank City Council recently approved an order authorizing the administrative enforcement of face covering requirements in certain public places in the city of Burbank. The city has entered into an agreement with Wildan Engineering to implement administrative citations with accompanying fines for those who do not comply with face covering requirements. The fine schedule is $100 for a first citation, $200 for a second citation, and $500 for any subsequent citations within a 12-month period. Enforcement will begin on October 16th, 2020, and will focus on areas receiving the majority of complaints, to include the Chandler Bikeway, Downtown Burbank District, Magnolia Park, and city parks. All citizens are encouraged to wear face coverings when in public or in close proximity of others and to obey face covering requirements. Burbank residents, are you interested in becoming more involved in your community but don't know where to start? Residents Inspiring Service and Empowerment, also known as RISE, is a free 9-week program that aims to inspire and empower locally based leaders from the city of Burbank to create a positive impact in the community. Applications are available online at burbankca.gov/RISE and will be accepted until October 31st. For more information, please call 818-238-5175. The city will be hosting an online community meeting on Thursday, November 5th at 6 o'clock p.m. to learn about the city's greenhouse gas reduction plan. This is a tool to quantify the city's share of the state's greenhouse gas emissions and establish steps to help the environment. The community will have the opportunity to ask questions and share ideas on how residents, businesses, and the city can be part of the plan to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. For more information and to access the link to the meeting, please visit burbankca.gov/climate action plan or call Fred Ramirez or Karen Pan at 818-238-5187. As the latest tool added to the city's online services, the Community Development Department is launching an online credit card payment module for building permit and plan check transactions. Burbank residents, business owners, developers, and their contractors can now pay for building permits and plan checks through the convenience of their computer or mobile device. This new feature is now available at permit.burbankca.gov. For assistance, please call 818-238-5220. The city clerk's office is accepting applications for the Senior Citizens Board for an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2022. The deadline to submit an online application is Friday, November 6th, 2020 at 5 p.m. For more information, please contact the city clerk's office at 818-238-5851 or visit burbankca.gov/BCC application. Between October 5th and October 27th, 2020, registered voters should receive their ballot in the mail. Please ensure your ballot is not mixed in with other mail. The last day to register to vote for the November 3rd, 2020 general election is Monday, October 19th, 2020. Voter registration cards are available at the Burbank City Clerk's office at City Hall at 275 East Olive Avenue during normal business hours, at Burbank Libraries by appointment, or you may register online at lavote.net. If your name has changed or if you have moved, you will need to re-register by the deadline. For the November 3rd, 2020 general election, there are 24-hour vote-by-mail drop boxes available at the following locations: Burbank City Hall, Buena Vista Library, George Isay Park, Jocelyn Adult Center, and Ralph Foy Park. Please ensure you are using a clearly marked official County of Los Angeles designated drop box. I'd like to refer voters to the image shown of an approved drop box as provided by the County of LA. In addition, 11-day and 5-day vote centers are located at the following locations: ACF Bashir Martirosyan Burbank Youth Center, Buena Vista Branch Library, Burbank High School, John Muir Middle School, Little White Chapel, Robert Gross Park, Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, and Uber Burbank. The Los Angeles County Registrar Recorder, County Clerk, is currently offering in-person early voting at their headquarters located at 12400 Imperial Highway, 3rd level, Norwalk, California, 90650. As a reminder, the November 3rd, 2020 Burbank General Municipal Election is consolidated with the County of Los Angeles general election, and any questions regarding voter registration and
Madam
issuance.
Mayor, you're muted. We can't hear anything you're saying.
Okay. 1 second. Is that for all of you? You can't hear?
I can hear you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Okay, Jess, are you okay now? Okay, thank you. As a reminder, the November 3rd, 2020 Burbank General Municipal Election is consolidated with the County of Los Angeles General Election, and any questions regarding voter registration and issuance of ballots may be addressed by contacting the county directly at 800-815-2666 or lavote.net. For any additional questions or for more information regarding Burbank City Council candidates, City Treasurer candidates, and Measure RC, please visit burbankca.gov/elections or contact the Burbank City Clerk's office at cityclerk@burbankca.gov or call 818-238-5851. I'd like to remind our viewers that if you wish to participate in general public comment, the phone line is now open. Please call 818-238-3335 to join the queue. We have 4 recognitions this evening. First, Council will recognize the recipient of the 2020 Rex Andrews Police Scholar Award. Chief LaChasse, will you please introduce the award?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, fellow council members. It is a great deal of pride that I want to introduce Officer Ryan Rhodes, who's one of our motor officers, as a recipient of this year's Rex Andrews Award. Barry Gussow, the president of Noon Rotary, is going to make a formal presentation to him on behalf of Noon Rotary, of which I am a member. But I'd like to make just a couple of remarks about Ryan before Barry takes over. And that is, we've got a great police officer in Ryan Rhodes. He's been with us since 2013 and has just been a stellar team member, has a tremendous work ethic, and is very dedicated to his profession. And certainly, Chief Andrews really embodied creativity, education, and ethics. And those same characteristics really define Ryan. So with that, what I'd like to do is bring Barry Gussow on, the president of Noon Rotary, to say a few words about Ryan as well as Chief Andrews. And then I will make a presentation to Ryan of his monetary award. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief LaChasse. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Barry Gussow from Noon Rotary. On January 1st, 1953, Rex Andrews became Burbank's 4th police chief following a nationwide search that drew 250 candidates and held that position for nearly 2 decades. During his tenure as chief, he helped to reorganize the department, and the Burbank Police Department at that time became a model for other departments throughout the country, as it is today. Chief Andrews always emphasized the importance of furthering your education along with the integrity and professionalism in law enforcement. Chief Andrews was a proud member of the Rotary Club of Burbank, by the way. In 1994, 12 years after his passing, the Rotary Club of Burbank began presenting the annual Rex Andrews Police Scholar Award in his memory. The award is presented to an officer who furthers their education and embodies that integrity and professionalism. Today, the Burbank Noon Rotary Club is proud to award the Rex Andrews Award to Officer Ryan Rhodes. Officer Rhodes is married to his wife, Emily, and is the father of 3 children. He attended Burroughs High School, earned his AA degree at Glendale Community College in 2012, and graduated from the Police Academy in 2014. He started working patrol and joined the motor officers in 2018. He's currently attending California Coastal University, where he is just 6 credits shy of earning that bachelor degree. He intends to continue his education with advanced courses in traffic investigation and tactics, and pass that knowledge on to his colleagues to benefit the department and the community. We're proud to recognize, an outstanding officer and happy to present him with a check in the amount of $1,000. Chief LaChasse.
Thank you, Barry. If you can see the check I am now presenting, this goes to Ryan Rhodes to further his college education. And again, he is a true member of this department, of this community. He really embodies all those characteristics for greatness, and we're looking for great things from him. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief LaChasse and Mr. Gusso, and congratulations to Officer Ryan Rhodes for receipt of this prestigious award.
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
can I say a couple words?
Yes.
Ryan, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I know you were following a different career path early on, back in high school, right?
Yes, sir.
A firefighter career path like your dad. But it looks to me like you made a better choice going with the police department. So congratulations and good things, much success ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Officer Rhodes, on behalf of City Council, I'd like to present you with this certificate of recognition for demonstrating the ideals of integrity, professionalism, and scholarship in law enforcement. Officer Rhodes, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate this opportunity to receive the scholarship. I do plan on continuing my education, not only to further myself, but also my fellow colleagues, as I truly do believe, as Chief Andrews believed in, that education is very important, specifically in law enforcement, so that we can continue to achieve higher levels of excellence.
Congratulations.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, may I have
Yes,
the mic?
Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Absolutely.
I would like to thank the president of the Noon Rotary Club for your commitment to the community, Barry. Thank you. And to Officer Rose, the big city motor cop in Burbank. Hey, congratulations on this pristine award. Congratulations on your higher education achievement. You definitely represent the high standards that Chief LaChasse has set for his department. And Chief, outstanding in the selection of this officer. Great job, guys. Thank you very much. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Congratulations again to Officer Rhodes, and thank you, Chief LaChasse and Mr. Gusso, for joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tonight, we're also recognizing Craig Hempel, our very own Recycling Center Coordinator, who has been named the California Resource Recovery Association's Recycler of the Year. I'd like to invite Ken Berkman, Public Works Director, to introduce the award.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, council members, I've been here 6 months, and I can unequivocally say we have many superstars on our Public Works team, but tonight we get to provide some special recognition to one of those superstars in Craig Hempel. So without further ado, video please.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, members of the public who are watching and listening at home. I'm Ken Berkman, Public Works Director with our City of Burbank, and I have some real exciting news about one of our staff in the department. And I'd like Assistant Public Works Director John Molinar to share it with you.
I would like to congratulate Craig Hempel for receiving this prestigious award from the California Resource Recovery Association. I'm so proud to be working with him, and the city is privileged to have Craig working for them. Most recently, I saw how much work he put into refining our plastics policy, including navigating various departmental needs and then presenting to council. He always lends a hand at events such as the Public Works Picnic, the Employee Breakfast, Starlight Bowl shows, and pretty much anytime someone needs help. Our industry is facing a lot of challenges lately, particularly with organics, but Craig always has a great attitude and helps all involved. Craig, thank you for all of the time and hard work you have put in over the years to make Burbank a better place to live. And here is the president of the CRA to present you with this award as Recycler of the Year. Congratulations, Craig.
Our final award, the CRA Recycler of the Year Award, goes to Craig Hampel. Craig Hampel is an inside-out systems ponder, city recycling coordinator, and unbridled pantheist mulcher. He measures discards, the polyculture of waste, hyper-obsolescence, the aesthetics of failure, and the distance between our food and our logic. Prior to being a garbage savant, Craig was a landscaper, boat builder, solar instructor, a garden coordinator, dad, and prop maker. I have always admired you, Craig. You are phenomenal. Thank you for being an amazing recycler and innovator in our industry. Thank you. That is this year's award. These people are amazing. I can't say enough about them. We are so excited to have them within our community for CRA and to honor you today. So thank you.
Craig, of course you would be awarded this. I'm just honored to present this to you on behalf of the entire City Council. I present you with this certificate of recognition for going above and beyond in your efforts to recycle, reuse, reduce waste, and conserve city resources. Mr. Hampel, Craig, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'm humbled. Thank you, Mayor and Council, Public Works Director, Assistant Director, everyone. Tonight, I'd actually like to share this recognition with the people who work on the sorting line. Every day in the heat, dust, hazards, they reach for about 15,000 recyclable items. I also want to thank the drivers who make 3 million curbside stops per year, the bulky crews who lift thousands of discarded appliances, couches, and mattresses, the landfill crew that handles 50,000 tons per year, and the maintenance crews who keep it all working. And of course, the recycling staff who breathe life into the programs every day. Even with all this good work, disposables are still growing, and recycling can't undo the environmental damage. But there is good news. A growing number of inspired residents are building better models. They're learning, teaching, practicing waste reduction, environmental restoration. They're focused on durable goods, native plants, healthy soils, pollinators, organic gardening, water harvesting, and human mobility. In simple terms, livable communities will plant more, manufacture less, and bring diverse biology to the forefront. With that, I'd just like to thank everyone who is working for this better world, and I want to thank everyone for their great work. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Yeah, to Mr. Berkman, Mr. Moeller, and most important, Craig, thank you for your commitment to making this a better, more sustainable city. I have seen you firsthand as we tackle on some of the tough issues as the liaison to the Burbank Sustainable Commission. I mean, you bring forward to even recyclable containers and looking at the future. You're a very forward-thinking individual in this department, which is so critical for the people of Burbank that want a sustainable community. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for working on the mattresses to keep them out of the landfill. I mean, Craig, you're very passionate, and this is the time to acknowledge you in front of your two bosses there of how appreciative I am as the liaison in communicating to the council and the people of how lucky we are to have an individual like you that really is a forward-thinking individual to reduce waste, maximize the time of the landfill. I'm very proud of you. Thank you for what you do day in and day out. It's a privilege for me to be here and be the liaison to the Burbank Sustainable Commission and see you firsthand, rolling up your sleeves, working on what we need to do as a city and leading the conversations and participating in the conversations. Thank you. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam
Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, thank you. I'll keep it brief, Craig. Thank you very much for your service, everything that you do for the city of Burbank. Thank you very much. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabaletti.
Unmute my hand clapping. I think we should all give Craig a big unmuted applause because you have been a total entrepreneur in the business of recyclables and discarded stuff. And for community members watching this evening, I will tell you that please stop by the recycling center when it's open again. And take a look at the recycled Tree of Life that Craig and staff over the years have put together. It's life-size, it is amazing. And I think the tribute from both your bosses here as well as from the state of California is so well deserved. It's just been a pleasure to know you. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, I first met you at a composting seminar a long time ago, and it was just so much fun. And I encourage, when those are back up and in process, I just encourage everybody to do that. And I thank you for your amenable personality, your good cheer, and for leading by walking and pedaling around. It just sets such a positive example. And I think we're just all very grateful for that. And do we know when the recycle center is opening, since you're here?
What we're looking at now is, go ahead, Ken, take it away.
No, please, it's your baby.
Basically, we are looking at county direction when sit-down dining opens again is really our benchmark of when we can reopen.
Okay, thank you, because we do get questions on
Yes.
that, and I really
Does that make
appreciate
any
that
sense?
response. So, congratulations, Craig, on this hard-earned and well-deserved award. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, everyone.
At this time, I'd like to invite our city clerk, Zizette Mullins, to introduce this year's winner of the City of Burbank Clerk's Cup.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I also would like to now bring on the screen Shar Tabbitt, BUSD Clerk for the board, and also Doug Grimshaw, Social Science Teacher from Burbank High, and Stephen Hubble, also the Assistant Principal of Athletic and Activities from Burroughs High. So I think we have them all on the screen. Here they are. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening. I wanted to start to let everyone know that a little bit about the Clerk's Cup, and we started this as a joint effort between the Burbank Unified School District, the clerk of the board, and myself to encourage students who are between 16 and 17 years of age to pre-register to vote so that when they reach the age of 18 and they can actually vote, then they don't have to worry about registration. And this program started in 2015, as I said, and it has been really successful with the help of the school district and the help of the teachers from both high schools. We have accomplished a lot of student registrations, which in turn educated the students about the importance of participating to vote in the election. So I don't know if you could see on the camera. Well, here it goes. The clerk, this is an actual cup. And for the last 4 years, because we did skip 1 year, the Clerk's Cup has actually been housed at Burbank High School with Mr. Grimshaw. They manage to steal it every year. And kudos to you because you've done a great job in promoting the election and the importance of the election for all the students. This year, we actually have both of the high schools got involved again. And I want to congratulate both of you because understanding this was extremely difficult being online and trying to ask the students to register online and also you doing it virtually. And so it wasn't easy. I know in the past I would show up and talk to all the classes and the different students and you assist in that. But I understand how difficult this was. And I do thank you. And I thank, of course, Shar and the entire board and Dr. Matt Hill for supporting us. This year, actually, we going to shift things around a bit. And I am very happy to say that Burroughs High School actually beat you, Burbank High School, this time. So, yeah, we have been feeling really bad for Burroughs High. I know they try every year, so, and it doesn't mean that Burbank did not do a great job in obtaining as much voter registration as they can, but I think they really did a great job last year that most of the students are there right now registered already to vote. So congratulations to Burroughs High School. You get to keep the cup till next year, and hopefully we'll do it in person next year. And we have a certificate of appreciation for both schools. And also the Clerk's Cup will be given to Burroughs High School this time. So right now, if I may invite Shar Tabbitt to say a few words, and then each of the teachers, you get to say a few words also. Go ahead, Shar.
Thank you, Suzette. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in the Clerk's Cup as well. It's so important for our community and our country to have people register to vote. And what a great opportunity it is to get young people in as soon as we can so that they understand the importance right away. And thank you to Mr. Hubble and Mr. Grimshaw for the time and energy you put in. And obviously, Zazette, you don't realize how competitive my friend Steve Hubble is. So I knew he was going to give this cup a run for its money because that's Steve. So that's a good thing though, Steve. I'm not complaining.
He's going to remain on my contact list for the rest of, for years to come. So we know how to get him. Thank you.
And thank you also, Doug, for your time and effort and energy towards this. And you've got a whole nother year to start working towards getting that cup back to Burbank High. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Grimshaw, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, first of all, thank you again for organizing this. It's always fun to compete, and congratulations to Mr. Hubble and to Burroughs. It never feels good to lose to you guys, but knowing that losing to my friend, and he put forth a great effort, so congratulations. And thank you to all the teachers and students at Burbank High who helped out and who participated. And hopefully we can do it again next year and do it even better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hubble?
Yeah, thanks again for everybody. Also, I wanted to thank for all the kids that registered. Everybody has very strong opinions, especially since this is a presidential year. And the only way to make your voice heard is to register to vote. So I'm really happy for everybody that got involved, especially all of the social studies department at Burroughs who helped us out and get a lot of kids to register. So, and actually we ended up having one parent who registered as well, who wasn't before.
Yes, we noticed that. So I do thank you for getting the parent to register through the school program. Vice Mayor Frutos, I believe, has his hand up.
Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I also want to congratulate our city clerk because she's allowed me to partner with her and see her firsthand. And she will have an assembly there at Burbank High School of 100+ students. But Mr. Grimshaw, I also want to thank you. I've also sat in government classes at John Burroughs, but I got to tell you, you're my favorite government teacher because I see you firsthand. We're there at Old Dark 30 hours, and you've got that advanced class before regular school starts. You're definitely a role model to the students, and you know how to really motivate them to learn about government. And you're definitely in the right direction, pointing our youth for the future. I haven't had the privilege of meeting the principal, Mr. Hubble, so sorry for not acknowledging you yet. But I just wanted to let Mr. Grimshaw know that I appreciate all the invitations he's invited me, that I've participated in his government classes. And let me tell you, you definitely have deserved the cup. And Madam City Clerk, your passion to get more people to register and involved in government starts off with our youth. And I know you're very passionate. So Mr. Hubble, you got a great team there. And Mr. Grimshaw, very proud of you. Keep up the great work with our youth. And Charlene Tab, it's always great to see you, madam. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you all.
Quick, before we adjourn this section,
Sure.
I just want to weigh in and say, I'm torn between Burbank and Burroughs, obviously. I'm the only Indian in my family. I've got 4 bulldogs, 3 kids, and my wife at home. So I want to congratulate Burroughs, go Indians, but at the same time, Burbank, you Bulldogs have been outstanding for the last few years. So it's a great competition. It's just like the Burbank Burroughs football game that I was involved for many years back when. But it's always a good competition, friendly competition. Thank you very much, and congratulations to Burroughs. Ms. Davitt, it's good to see you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Ms. Tabbitt, Mr. Grimshaw, and Mr. Hubble, and congratulations. And thank you, Ms. Mullins, for this contest.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. In August, Our Burbank launched the Our Burbank Mural Scavenger Hunt, a community activity aimed to promote civic pride and to highlight Burbank's diverse display of public art. Interested participants were invited to download the digital scavenger hunt sheet and locate 18 murals throughout the city. Becky Harrison and her friend, Joe Fair, were the first to complete the scavenger hunt and submit photos of themselves at all the murals. Our Burbank and the City Council are excited to present Becky and Joe with these certificates of recognition for being the first to successfully find the murals throughout our city and for sharing their Burbank pride with all of us. Anyone interested in participating in the mural scavenger hunt may do so by downloading the mural guide from our website at burbankca.gov. For more information, contact Mary Movesian at 818-238-5845. So congratulations. Sounds like a lot of fun. I'd like to remind our viewers that if you wish to participate in general public comment, the phone line is now open. Please call 818-238-3335 to join the queue. Ms. Wilkie, do you have anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Springer. We did have a notable event that occurred over the weekend related to a protest. And so I would like to invite Police Captain Crimmins to come up and briefly give an update on what occurred so that the community can be aware of the situation.
Good evening, Mayor Springer and Vice Mayor Frutos, the rest of the council. I'm Captain Dennis Crimmins, and I'm the commanding officer of the Burbank Police Department's Patrol Division. I'm here tonight to give you a brief account of 2 demonstrations that occurred on Sunday, the October the 11th, 2 days ago, and how they were managed by on-duty Burbank personnel. So information was received sometime on early Sunday morning of a couple, at least 2, maybe 3 demonstrations and protest demonstrations over the policy of having to wear masks inside retail establishments. So at 10:30, a sergeant and a couple officers went over to IKEA, which was the first one on the list. We met with management and met with protesters that showed up at that time. And we gave the expectations as far as First Amendment rights and what the store's position was going to be. And Therese tried to lay out, and this is what we tried to do in every situation, any protest we have, we always try to meet with the organizers and anybody who else is affected. In this case, it was IKEA. So we had the managers, we had the protest organizers, and the idea was, I think several of the protest organizers wanted to go inside the IKEA without masks, and they were denied. A couple of them, or I should say several of them claimed they had medical exemptions, and the IKEA personnel talked to them. I think they implemented their own protocol, let several of them in after giving them a temperature reading. Maybe they did a questionnaire. They put a blue band on them and let them inside with social distancing. It was pretty much a non-event after that, and after a while, the police department left because we weren't really needed there. There was no violence or anything like that. 2 hours later, most of the same group appeared again at Trader Joe's on Alameda. And I think that confrontation was a little more contentious. And again, they wanted to go inside the store. We consulted, again, a sergeant and a couple officers went out there. Same protocol, met with the store management, met with the protesters. And at that time, the store manager contacted, apparently, according to my information, contacted the corporate headquarters, at which time they made a decision to close the store down while the protest was in progress. So that was probably about 12:30. Protesters were there until, I'm told, 3:15, at which time they left. And about 3:30, the store manager opened up the store again. He wanted to make sure the protesters weren't coming back. I think there was some back and forth between some of the patrons who were upset that the store had been closed when they went to go shopping. But other than that, there was no violence. And that's our primary mission there, was to prevent violence and afford people their First Amendment rights to assemble and protest. Beyond that, that's the sum and substance of it. There were no arrests. There were no incidents other than probably some verbal back and forth.
Thank you.
That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkie and Captain Cremens. We have a presentation tonight from the city's federal advocacy firm, David Turch and Associates. Ms. Alice, will you please introduce the next speakers?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Christine Ellis, analyst with the City Manager's Office. Tonight's presentation is an update from the city's federal advocacy firm, David Turch and Associates. Staff has been working with our advocates to screen and respond to relevant federal legislation. We are joined tonight by David Turch and Jamie Jones, who have been meeting virtually with department heads this week to discuss recent federal developments that may be impactful to the city of Burbank. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Turch to commence the presentation.
Madam Mayor, members of the council of my favorite city, good evening from our great nation's capital. You can hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yes?
Yes,
good.
We can hear you.
Well, that may be good. That may not be so good. I'm talking to you with a certain sense of both happiness and unhappiness. Unhappiness on my part, since I can't be with you physically tonight in that beautiful building. And I think the happiness should be on your part, because sitting in here in my dining room with a telephone in my ear, I'm much less likely to be as long-winded as you might have become accustomed. Enjoy it while you can. As usual, we're going to divide our presentation into two parts. I'd like to give you an overview of kind of where the federal government is and what we expect in the next couple of months. Mr. Jones will then talk with specificity about your projects and how they fit into that matrix. Unusually, I'd like to sign off after my presentation and answering any easy questions that you might have. Mr. Jones will take care of the difficult questions. I have a very early morning plane to Georgia winding up in Michigan tomorrow night, so if you'll indulge me, I will appreciate that much. Our government is funded and running. The new fiscal year began on October 1st, but we have passed a continuing resolution, a CR, that takes us to December the 11th. That was the date really chosen by Leader McConnell. The House and Speaker Pelosi wanted to extend the fiscal year and the CR into something in February or March, but that's not to be. It's now December the 11th. The House is not meeting now and is not scheduled to be in session until November the 16th, and then they have 13 legislative days between the 16th and December the 10th. The Senate is not in session except for pro forma, and that matters because committees cannot hold hearings unless the Senate is in session, and of course you all are aware the Judiciary Committee has begun hearings on the confirmation of Judge Comey Barrett yesterday. There was one addition to the CR that matters to us in Burbank. That is the FAST Act. That is the authorizing legislation that provides for surface transportation funding has been extended from its deadline of October 1st through September 30th, midnight of fiscal year 22, that is calendar year 21. And I'll come back to the FAST Act in a little bit. Let me talk a little bit about it right now. The Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works reported out its bill in July of 2019, over a year ago. There are 3 other committees in the Senate that have jurisdiction. None have reported legislation. The House passed its surface transportation bill in July of 2020, just a few months ago. But again, that has not been taken up on the floor, and we're off now for about the next 11 months. So the provisions under the FAST Act will continue until the end of September of calendar 2021. I think the big issue facing our nation probably is the COVID stimulus packages. The stimulus packages 1, 2, and 3, the last being the CARES Act, were really reached with Speaker Pelosi and Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Mnuchin has the confidence and appears to be a good friend of the president, and corresponding could bypass some of the difficulties in negotiating with the House. Pelosi and Mnuchin get along. They respect each other. They're on opposite sides politically, but each understands what difficulty our great nation is in, and they can agree on the goals and a plan of how to get there. The subsequent legislation, the HEROES Act, I wrote this down so I actually know what it means. Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act. We can only do that stuff in Washington. Originally passed the House on May 15th. It was a $3.4 billion stimulus package. DOA in the Senate. It contained $900 billion for states and localities, of which a little more than half, $375 billion, would have gone to municipalities. Since that was DOA in the Senate, the House passed a slimmed-down $2.2 trillion package on October 1st. It seems like a strong reduction, but it really wasn't. That savings was achieved by lopping off the prospective spending. In other words, the first package had gone well into fiscal year 22, and now we've pared it down to only dealing with the CR and the immediate months left in what would have been appropriated under fiscal 21. So in any event, it wasn't that great a compromise, but the House is at 2.2. That bill provided $436 billion to state and local governments, of which 179 would have been for localities. The Senate has vacillated between $2 billion and $5 billion, and they're slimmed down, skinny bills. And I think one of the biggest things that have happened is the president has changed chief of staff. Mark Meadows is now involved in the negotiation. Great guy. Everybody likes him. He's personable. He's one of the nicest people you want to be around. He's funny. However, he is opposed to most everything that comes down the pike in the House. One of his nicknames was No Meadows. And correspondingly, as soon as he got involved in the talks, they slid to a halt. The other difficulty, as things have not progressed, is that some of the senators have emerged questioning whether or not we want to go forward with that kind of an expenditure raising the national debt. I'll get into that a little bit later because I think it's going to be a big issue in the coming Congress. As we look forward to a new Congress, and remember the Congress changes the entire House and a third of the Senate on noon on January 3rd. I think there are a couple of things we'll look for. One are institutional changes, the most significant being earmarks. Now I see a couple of things happening. One, a fair amount of dissension in both parties. That is, neither has propounded programs with any kind of specificity. So we're going into this election basically voting on the candidates as opposed to really specific programs that they would affect once they're in office. And that's true on both sides of the aisle. One of the issues certainly in the House will be earmarks. I've been touting earmarks for some years. And remember, when I get into Civics 101 discussions, earmarks do not add 1 penny to federal expenditures. They're just a determinative vehicle in how we allocate your tax dollars. All of the 3 members of Congress who are running for chairman of the Appropriations Committee to succeed Nita Lowey have indicated that they are in favor of earmarks. DeFazio of House Transportation is in favor of earmarks. Wicker and Barrasso in the Senate in favor of earmarks. The House Select Committee on Modernization of the Congress has proposed restoring the practice of what they call congressionally directed spending. I used to call it community funding initiatives. I kind of like my nomenclature better than theirs, but then I'm not determinative in what we're going to call them. We're never going to call them earmarks again. Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn have testified about the need to resume that practice. And even people like Tom Cole, a Republican from from Oklahoma, a senior Republican appropriator and a member of the Rules Committee, has spoken out very much in favor of earmarks. So I think that's one of the institutional changes we could see. The Senate historically has not been opposed. It's really been a provision of the House. The second thing is, in the Senate, of course, we're going to have a substantial discussion about the filibuster. And I don't think this is going to break down along party lines so much as it may break down along progressive and institutional lines, the more moderate institutionalists looking for some way to not allow the United States Senate be on the same ground of simple majorities as the U.S. House is now. So in any event, that's kind of where we are federally. I will say that, again, we miss having you in D.C. It matters that you're able to come to Washington, and hopefully after COVID we can reinstitute those trips. They've been effective. They've been a good return on the cities of Burbank. And depending on the outcome of the election, we may be in a much better position for any kind of a federal assistance than we are now. Who knows? Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Yes, and Mr. Church, you did pretty well on the phone. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
How you doing, Mr. Church and Mr. Jones? Good to see you guys and hear you.
Good to see you.
Hey, Bob.
So here's a question on a 101 level. Because of the COVID-19, under the Health Act, under Medicare, are there hopefully financial provisions, or somebody at the federal level is discussing, when we have these seniors and they come down with COVID-19 and Medicare only covers up to 100 days of extended outside of the hospital at a nursing home, if it's COVID-19 related, are there provisions to help out these seniors to basically continue to pay if they're, down with COVID-19 with the signs and symptoms more than 100 days? Are there conversations about that? Because Medicare does not cover it. And what's there for seniors to follow up on for additional financial help?
I don't know on two levels. First of all, we'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Spoken like a true consultant, huh? We'll get right back to you on that. I don't know of any, but I will tell you that the CARES Act was very generally written, so there can be provisions that could be interpreted to provide for that. And that's why I say we'll get back to you on that. Okay. There is still some money unexpended in the CARES Act, and who knows what may occur in the HEROES Act if we actually get it. The difficulty is that now we seem to be all over the place. The president had called off the talks, and then the talks were on for $200 billion for airlines, and the most recent thing is $1.8 billion with the slogan "Go big or go home." Long and short is we're not sure how the successor to the CARES Act will come out, but it's possible that there's some wiggle room in the CARES Act. We'll look into it and we'll get back to you.
Okay, and then my next question, hopefully a lot simpler, is under the Surface Act, surface transportation. So obviously Amtrak's long-haul trains are going tri-weekly now because of the lack of funding. My question is, if there's new monies coming out, is there any plans to try to hopefully save Amtrak? And I know their ridership is down like 82%, but the economy is slowly picking up. People are slowly returning back to some of a normality, moving back and forth. Is there any way that some of this money will go to obviously save Amtrak and save those long-haul trains? The one I'm talking about would be the Coast Starlight, which right now runs every day, but I guess as of next week, it's supposed to go tri-weekly, and that's the one that goes from LA to Seattle. But there's a lot of people that go in between some of our, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. Any thoughts about that?
Yes, the Amtrak has been both successful and non-successful from a farebox return standpoint, as well as ridership. Highly successful on the East Coast, where we're running faster and faster trains with dedicated rail usage. Other in America, not so much. We have provided some additional funding for Amtrak, and I can't remember exactly what it was to put it on a more substantial financial basis. Again, I think that the direction of the successor to the FAST Act may not deal with Amtrak quite so much as it will. Remember, the president's proposal was to expand infrastructure beyond just building roads into rail, into airports, into water, stuff that we all can agree is in fact infrastructure. Maybe a part of that is also Amtrak. We'll take a look at it. I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabeletti.
Mr. Tersch, welcome to Burbank.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I love it there.
Yeah, it's too bad you can't be here in person. It's always so enjoyable to see you. And I see Jamie, so it's not going to be, he's on.
I'm on, yes. Thank you.
So I just want to say that you and I share a mutual enthusiasm for earmarks, especially since we might have a very senior congressman in the new House. Don't really know where the whole election is going, but having a senior member is always good. Secondly, I wanted to say how much, and I think the council would agree, that the funding that came through the CARES Act through the block grant system directly to us was a big help in our staff setting up a program to help subsidize the rent of qualified low-income renters in our city after COVID took its full force measure in the Southern California area, and so many people lost their jobs. That kind of direct funding was good, easy, didn't peel off a lot of administrative cost, and we could put it to work right away. We did it both for residents and for qualified businesses who could not qualify for the PPP. So it's just good. I want you to know that. I have one question. It's in a whole different direction, but has there been any discussion at the federal level about the federal government helping students rewrite their loan debt at a lower interest rate, since we all know that interest rates are at historic lows? And if we were going to help, the federal government, possibly the states, going to help on a broader basis, is there any talk about refinancing student loan debt at the significantly reduced interest rate?
Mr. Jones, you can fill in here, but my impression is that there was a provision in the CARES Act. One of the difficulties with student loans is that the provision in the CARES Act pertains, and again, correct me, Jamie, if you need to, it pertains only to federally financed student loans and not the portion of the student loan liability that's privately financed. So there's kind of a dichotomy in what we can address and what we can't. Jamie, is that even remotely accurate?
No, that's pretty remotely accurate. Yes, and there is some funding in the CARES.2. Well, I should say the HEROES bill that was passed in May, the $3.4 trillion package, and then its successor, the newly passed, House passed $2.2 trillion HEROES version. And so there is funding there and assistance for student loans, and we'll provide you some more details about exactly what's in there on that. But there is some assistance for them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, is there a barrier to the federal government refinancing private debt?
Not that I believe that there is, or at least we haven't taken advantage of that. And that could be not much more than the banking lobby that would have some objections to that. I'm not sure what the effect is then on banking institutions. All I know is that it is divided at the moment, the refinancing of this. So if you're a student, you have to be careful about how you take out that debt, and you can refinance it. If you're in a federal program, you tend not to be able to do that if you're in a private program. Yeah, and I'm not sure why that is.
It would free up so much money to put into our economy, and I just want to thank the mayor. Thank you for answering my question. I don't want to take any more time, but really appreciate your report this evening. Look forward to Mr. Jones. Thank you, Madam.
Well, and we do have, of course, the member of Congress that we're fortunate to have. I don't want to get too political, but gosh, he's effective. And seniority matters, as you've heard me say many times. Sometimes in federal institutions, it's just more important than you keep breathing than to be smart. In this case, we have both.
Thank you. Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Church, welcome to Burbank, like my colleague mentioned. And Mr. Jones, it's nice to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you. Thank you.
It's always good to hear from you guys when you give us an update. And you got to fly out later tonight, Mr. Church?
In the morning, first thing in the morning.
Oh, in the morning.
So,
okay.
Yeah, we're only 3 hours different from you, so I'm not desperate yet. But after this, I will retire.
I was going to cut my question short, but now that I know we've got more leeway. Anyway,
it's 4 hours later in Nova Scotia.
Okay, we'll consider that. Real quick, you've heard that California is burning. Obviously, they're setting. We've set a record of 4 million acres this year so far. So that's a new record for California. Is there, and the majority of the lands don't belong to California. They're federal properties. Has there been any discussion that you've heard about something? I know California, not too many people want to help California, but you know, the president has said it several times, and it's our responsibility when we only have like 30% of the lands. The other 70 belong to the federal government. Is there anything that you've heard in a discussion about possibly doing something?
Actually, there is. One of my very close friends, as you know, is chairman of the House Agriculture Committee that oversees the Department of Agriculture, which has control of the National Forest Service. I've talked with Colin about that on a number of occasions. We are now expending virtually all of the Forest Service money that could be used for all kinds of things on just abating forest fires. Don't know what the solution to that is, but pointing fingers and saying, well, it's your responsibility for not raking up the leaves somehow just doesn't solve the problem. The difficulty maybe is that Colin is in a very conservative district in western Minnesota and may not survive the election. I hope he does. He certainly is the entree that can give us help and some answers to those things.
Go ahead.
Councilman Talamantes, pardon for interrupting. Senator Feinstein and Senator Daines from Montana have introduced legislation to assist Western states fight wildfires. So, you know, the city has, I provided a section by section analysis of the bill and a summary of the bill to city staff, and I'll be more than happy to send that directly to you as well.
Yes, please send it to all the council.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Jones. And Mr. Church, one more thing in regards to infrastructure. Do you foresee some monies coming to Burbank on infrastructure?
Well, I certainly hope so. We don't have the bill yet. We'll see what the bill, what it specifies, but everyone is pretty much in agreement. I think whoever is elected and whichever parties control both the House and the Senate or either or, everyone's pretty much in favor of expending a fair amount of money on infrastructure. One difficulty will be some members of the U.S. Senate have begun to express real consideration about the size of the national debt. And that is a growing concern, and it has caused great fragmentation in the Republican caucus in the Senate. I don't know what the answers to those things are yet. So the answer is we don't know how much money may be available to expend on infrastructure, but it certainly is a popular concept. People are eager to get on with funding those activities. We just don't know how much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Church. It's always good to hear from you. And as far as I'm concerned, great job. Looking forward to Mr. Jones' presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We want to say thank you because Mr. Jones really does all the work, and then I try to steal credit, occasionally successfully.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Church. I just wanted to go over again what you said at the very beginning because I'm not sure I heard you right. It sounded like you said since the Senate wasn't in session that they wouldn't be holding any hearings, and then a couple minutes later you said the judiciary hearing was going forward on the very controversial justice. Could you say that again?
Yes, the Senate is in pro forma session. So I guess I probably did not say that very clearly. They're in pro forma sessions, meaning that there's no business being conducted on the Senate floor. There's no business being conducted in any other committee of which I know, but committees may not hold hearings unless the Senate is in session, so they're in pro forma sessions. Other than that, the Senate is out of, well, I don't want to be confusing again. They don't expect to meet again until October 16th, 19th.
19th, yeah, but the Senate Judiciary Committee, as you well know, is holding, the nomination hearing for the Supreme Court justice. So that's going on now, but they're not doing any other legislative business.
it sounds like it's time for Senator Byrd to come back and call for some kind of an issue. I can answer Vice Mayor Furtos's question about the COVID thing with the seniors. If you'll remember, in the very beginning, the president said that anyone that got sick would be fully covered and wouldn't have to pay a dime. So I remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question about, do you see any evidence that maybe housing could be a major component of economic recovery? And also anything to make sure that property owners, whether they be apartment owners or single-family homeowners, that interest rates are just at all-time super historical lows. But I was speaking with somebody the other day, and she told me that one of the requirements for refinancing a single-family home was to have 6 months reserves.
Because it's open temporarily.
And
all right, okay.
So have you heard anything? And because it would be beneficial to everybody, to owners and to renters, because it would reduce housing costs and maybe provide more housing if there's some incentive to build, if low rates are accessible.
I haven't heard of, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
So in both the HEROES Act, the first version and the slimmed down version of the 2.2 trillion, there are tens and tens of billions of dollars allocated for renters as well as homeowners to stay in their houses, money to help pay for the rent, for the mortgage, for utilities, and for other costs. As far as refinancing, I'm not sure that there's money to refinance the mortgages, but don't know. We'll certainly look into it to see the language that is currently drafted and the Democratic proposal. The Republicans are coming up with a Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is going to be moving a $500 billion COVID relief package on Monday or Tuesday. I haven't seen the contents of it yet, but we'll look at that and report back to you to see if there's any language on housing issues. I don't think there will be, but we'll check and get back to you on that. But I will look into the Democratic version, the 2.2 trillion, and to see if there's any language that would allow or that would assist homeowners in refinancing their mortgages to a lower rate.
Okay, thank you. And not just single-family homeowners, but apartment owners, because rents are declining, and I think it would just be very beneficial for all apartment dwellers, renters, owners, everybody. Thank you. Anything else? Yes, Councilmember Gabeletti.
Yeah, since Jones, you're doing so well doing all this follow-up on behalf of Mr. Tersh.
I know, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm glad you noticed.
I want to return to student loans only for a moment, and that is ask if you can tell me whether the federal government has given money or provided money to the private lenders, to the private banks, to set up student loans. If there are any federal dollars that went into that to start the process in the private sector.
I think the way it goes is they guarantee those loans, and that's the federal component.
Well, they guarantee.
They're made through private banks, but it's a federal guarantee.
That's right.
And then there's a part that is not federally guaranteed, and that's the private. Go ahead.
That means that we, the taxpayers, are on the hook if a student defaults?
That's correct.
The bank isn't able to cover it for whatever reason.
That's correct.
I see. And it's okay. And then the last is just simply a comment about the national debt. I know there's a great deal of well, not a great deal, but there are concerns about the mounting national debt, although I must say that in the last 4 years, the most significant contributors to the national debt sound like the ones who are now getting concerned about what they already approved, number one. And number two, interest rates are still very low. And I don't think Chairman Powell has, no one sees them going up, certainly in the next year or so. And I wonder what your comment might be about that. So we may have debt, but it's not like it was.
If I could put on my economist hat, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. That is, it is not the debt that, first of all, the national debt is intrinsically different than the kind of debt you and I incur as private individuals. So one. Two, it's the amount of transfer payment that matters. So it's the amount of interest that we're paying to each other and other people who hold the bonds that matters, as opposed to how much debt there really is. And last, we tend to incur debt in ways that may not always be productive for national society, that benefits some more than others, and it feeds the inequality in America, and maybe that's not the right way to go. So debt is important for some reasons, but also, like you say, it's not the size, it's the cost of the debt that matters. And looking forward into the future, we just don't see, looking out 16 quarters, we don't see a rise in interest rates.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Safe trip, Mr. Tersch.
Well, thank you very much. It is always my great pleasure to be with you. I wish I was there in person, and I want to apologize again for I was taking a friend of mine to visit that beautiful building and broke into one of your executive sessions one night some months ago. I apologize again. Sorry. Look forward to seeing you next trip. Mr. Jones, it's your ball.
Oh, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Mayor Springer, yes. Thank you very much. And members of the council, thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you tonight. David sort of gave you an overarching view of what's happening at the moment in Congress and where we think things are going in the next Congress. I just wanted to echo the statement and our interest in the earmark issue or the community projects, whatever they call it, specially designated projects. Congress will come up with a term if they move forward with this. I've been talking to Christine Ellis and Tiffany Titus from Burbank Water and Power and some other staffers from the city on how to structure the city's priorities if a Congress moves forward with the earmark process. And one of the things we will be recommending to the city is, as you move forward with your priorities, that we have sort of a menu of projects, a core group of projects that could be infrastructure related, that are sort of larger ticket items that do not compete with each other under appropriation accounts. We want to spread that out so that we maximize the city's ability to secure earmarks. And so you want to have larger ticket items. It could be water related, it could be bridge related, transit related, and then have smaller secondary projects, smaller in scope. It could be something related to cybersecurity or broadband or some other project. It could be related to maybe senior centers or maybe a program run out of your library. And I'll be working with your staff on that so that the city is prepared to submit a list of priorities to Congressman Schiff and Senator Feinstein and Senator Harris or whomever is appointed to fill her seat should she be elected Vice President of the United States. So I wanted to let you know that I'm working actively engaged with city staff on that, and we'll be working with you, obviously, to get your final input on this. The other issue I wanted to highlight that is very specific to the city of Burbank is the whole issue of the T-band. I know it's a spectrum issue, but it's really a critical issue for not just the city of Burbank, but for all other member cities of the ICI system, the Interagency Communications Interoperability System. It is what your public safety uses for mission critical voice communications. It's the radios they use, the ability they can move from one city to another. Someone from Burbank Police Fire or Burbank Police can go anywhere in LA County and stay in communication with Burbank or communicate with any other department in LA County. It really is a phenomenal interoperable system. Burbank was a founding member of the ICI system. We used to be called ISIS, and I think I may have told you this. We had to stop calling ourselves ISIS a couple of years ago. We had to rebrand ourselves because of what was going on in the Middle East. We couldn't be, every time I'd call the Department of Homeland Security or the FCC, and I would say of Jamie Jones with the ICI or the ISIS system, I would get, there'd be either laughter or silence on the other side of the phone. So we had to do something. But regardless, so what's happened is in 2012, Congress, in its infinite wisdom, basically passed a provision in a larger bill that requires the Federal Communications Commission to auction off public safety T-band by February 2021. That's only a few months away. And there really is no other viable spectrum for the ICI system to migrate to. It just does not exist. And it's the same as true for New York, for Chicago, for Philadelphia, and for other large metropolitan areas of the country. So this is a fairly large concern. It affects mostly major cities. So these are mostly Democratic areas. We have been working, so the ICI system with Burbank is on record with this. We've been working with the International Association of Fire Chiefs, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, National Sheriff's Association, Major Cities Chiefs Association, the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the National League of Cities, the LA RICS. We're all on board on this. New York City, obviously. We're all working. We've been coordinating our efforts, and we've been working closely with Nancy Pelosi, Kevin McCarthy's office on the House side, and with Chuck Schumer on the Senate, and Senator McConnell's office, leadership office in the Senate. We've been working with the committees on both the House and Senate that have jurisdiction. We've had provisions that would resolve this issue for us, that would repeal the auction that was passed in the HEROES Act, and then put in again in the smaller version of the HEROES Act. So we have the House is on board. We even secured a vote on a standalone bill, H.R. 451, that was sponsored by Elliot Engel, but co-sponsored by your Congressman, Adam Schiff, who's been a true champion on this issue for a long time. He's really been an invaluable assistance. So that bill passed at the end of September, just a couple weeks ago, 410-5 in the House. That bill is straightforward. It's a straight repeal of the auction mandate. On the Senate side, the holdup is really on the Senate side, on the Republican side. We have Senator Ted Cruz. There was an effort by Senator Markey from Massachusetts to hold H.R. 451 at the desk. And he asked for unanimous consent to vote on the House passed bill, unfortunately, Senator Ted Cruz voiced objections because while he supports repealing T-band auction mandate, he would like to leverage that to secure other spectrum for the telecommunications industry. So our issue that affects all of LA County and the city of Burbank is being held hostage at this moment. But I think we're going to resolve this, hopefully by the end of this year. We have a couple of options to look at on how to move this either through another omnibus bill that may be passed in December, or a continuing resolution, or even a standalone bill on HR 451 that I just mentioned. And if that doesn't work, depending on what happens in the election, will have a very direct impact on what happens early next year. We think that if the Democrats flip the Senate and take over, where Chuck Schumer becomes the majority leader, and if Biden obviously wins the White House, we think that if our issue has not been resolved by the end of this year, early next year, one of the first orders of business will be enactment of this legislation, of the repeal of the T-band auction mandate. So that's very good news. I think, otherwise we face as a community approximately a bill of around $300 million to replace something that works very well, that's very robust, and it just makes no sense. It's typical of the federal government. And you guys have put together, Burbank and other communities have really put a phenomenal interoperable system, and you should be very proud of being one of the leaders on this. And it's thankful to the leadership and the council members and your vision. And I think this is something that is really a legacy that you can all be proud of. But anyway, this is something we're working on. We think this will be resolved shortly. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I know David sort of laid out a broad brush stroke of things. And you had some questions there, but if there are other ones, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Council? Okay, I think we've asked them all. So,
Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming and being with us this evening. Okay? Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks again. It's been a privilege.
Will the city attorney please report on closed session?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. Council met in closed session earlier this afternoon on 2 existing litigation cases pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 subsection D1. Both of them were worker compensation appeal board cases. One was Moreno versus the city, and the second is Darien versus the city. There is nothing to report out. Thank you.
Thank you. Now is the time for joint general public comment. Members of the public may address the council on any matter concerning city business and/or any agenda item. If you'd like to participate, please call 818-238-3335. Remember to lower the volume on your TV or computer and take your phone off speaker when you deliver public comment. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. We ask for your patience as we finish up with one speaker and move to the next. To participate, please call 818-238-3335. Ms. Mullins, do we have any callers on the line?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we currently have 6 calls in queue, and we're ready to move them forward.
Thank you.
Our first caller is Carolyn English. Carolyn, you are live with council. Carolyn?
Yes.
Carolyn, you're live with council.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Burbank City Council. My name is Carolyn English. I currently serve on the board of Wesley Homes, which is the 4 senior housing units in Burbank. And in that capacity, I am their representative to the Burbank Housing Corporation. I had the honor and challenge to be appointed for Pete McGrath, who, of course, is irreplaceable. But I'm happy to serve in his place on the Burbank Housing Corporation. I'm here to talk to you about filling the Burbank Housing Corporation vacancy with my good friend Chris Welker. She has an outstanding reputation in Burbank. I'm sure you've seen on her resume that she served for 27 years with the Burbank Police Department. She's a graduate of Leadership Burbank. And during her tenure in the police department, she really focused on neighborhoods throughout the city that were need areas. For Burbank Housing Corporation, she has served on that board for over 14 years, and she is currently the president of that board. As you know, the board has only had 2 people leading us, Judith, the amazing Judith, who has retired, and now Sylvia has taken her place. So we're a board with a long history, but not a lot of board members that have served as long as Chris has. We have only 2 other members that have served for a lengthy amount of time. The rest of us are less than 1 year in experience. And so for that reason, we really need Chris to continue and be appointed by the City of Burbank to the Burbank Housing Corporation. This is a tough year with COVID, and with a new leader in position with Sylvia, we need the kind of leadership that Chris can bring. She's familiar with all of the projects that we have completed with Family Promise of the Verdugos, with the Family Service Agency. As you know, we've built housing with the city for people suffering from domestic violence, at-risk groups, homeless, and veterans. And I'm sure you're aware of the new Scott Motel project that we have just begun. So for all of these reasons, I know that it's a position that requires great passion, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in Burbank who have great passion. But what Chris brings, not only that passion and that love, but historic experience. She's familiar with nonprofit housing. She knows how to acquire the housing, how to get the money.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next caller, please. And I remind you, you have 3 minutes.
Our next caller is Chris Welker. Chris, you are live with council.
Good evening, Mayor Springer and council members. Again, this is Chris Welker, and the reason for my call tonight is to address your task this evening to fill a vacancy on the Burbank Housing Corporation Board of Directors. I submitted an application that explains my basic qualifications for this position, but I thought along with my application that it would be helpful to hear my personal reasons for applying for this appointment and why I have a desire to continue to be a board member. I find the goal of BHC, which is to create affordable housing opportunities and enriching services, to be one of the most fundamentally important responsibilities that any organization could have. And frankly, serving as a board director to assist BHC to accomplish their mission is one of the most incredibly rewarding experiences that I've had. Tonight I understand the importance of your appointment and the expected responsibilities required as your representative. I believe with my tenure as a Burbank police officer working in focused neighborhoods that are served by BHC and my demonstrated leadership and experience within my professional life and my volunteer history, along with my years of participation serving on this board, make me uniquely qualified. Honestly, my greatest desire is to see this organization continue to flourish and prosper in their assistance to the most vulnerable members of our community. I believe balance is everything, and BHC is unique and makes Burbank unique as a city where everyone has value and is welcome. And I hope to continue to contribute to this effort. I really and sincerely appreciate the support that you've extended in the past, and I thank you for your time this evening and the opportunity to speak. Again, thank you. Good night.
Thank you for your call. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Joel Schlossman. Joel, you are live with council.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Do things like honesty and integrity matter? Constantine Anthony is telling people that he's going to transfer $4 million of our general fund money to the school district. Madam City Attorney, is that legal? I contend it is a gift of public funds. There are a lot of public records about Constantine Anthony's past. Some examples are regarding his divorce, which is ongoing now. He is asking a judge to settle a dispute over a swimsuit. That should give some clue to his mentality. Regarding his bankruptcy, I asked Constantine why he didn't pay back the money to his credit cards, and he blamed it on predatory lenders. I asked him why he did not pay back the money to Uncle Sam. He took out some college loans, and he told me again, predatory lenders. By the way, he is a college dropout. He did not finish. Regarding his name change, he told the judge that he was destitute and he had the taxpayers pay for his name change. When I asked him about his name change, he told me that his last name was difficult to pronounce. That is a falsehood. In reality, he changed it because he thought it would be better for his acting career. When I asked him why he spent time in jail, he told me it was because he forgot to pay his bills. The truth is, he was driving with a suspended license and he had numerous moving violations. He wants to give away the city's money in our general fund. He calls it universal basic income. Just deplete our general fund. He wants to sell marijuana. He wants to have marijuana stores here in Burbank. He does not want anybody to be able to own guns, and in fact, he wants to repeal the Second Amendment. This is just the beginning with this guy. We need leaders in Burbank that are not self-serving manipulators. Please play the video.
Critical public service announcement. Skipping this ad could result in higher taxes and subsequent heartburn.
He was diagnosed early on as autistic, like me.
Crazy Constantine repeats over and over that he is autistic, yet his girlfriend and campaign manager Margot Router, aka Baby Constantine's mommy, admits he has never been diagnosed. She said Constantine's former schoolmates guessed he might be autistic. Is Crazy Constantine acting up again? Why does he keep playing this Baby Constantine violin? Vote smart. Do not vote for the radical socialist who wants to raise taxes.
Raising taxes, raising taxes, raising taxes.
Raising taxes, 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 raising taxes.
I'm crazy and I'm not a criminal.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Phil Dojic. Phil, you're live with council.
My name is Fula Dojic. I have a degree in economics and finance. I have a degree in engineering in work organization, American Bar Certified, Assistant Minister of Justice for all areas outside the United States, the SIS Law Enforcement Officer, Post Commander, and Supervisor. Rental housing is expensive in California. We watched a wonderful video last year about stopping rental prices. We need to work not only to stop rental prices, but also to lower current rental prices. We know that workers' wages are lower than the cost of living, is up in grocery stores and in other activities. A worker in Vons and Ralphs receives $13.50 an hour, and if we multiply that by 160 hours full-time earnings, our monthly gross $2,160. And from that amount, we subtract 18 or 20% for state and federal taxes. We will get the net of $1,770. That amount is enough to rent studio or one-bedroom apartment, but it is not enough to buy food, to buy clothes, and it is not enough to pay utilities. An obvious error is seen here, and it is urgently needed to correct this mistake. By the legislative analyst, they said the rent is high in California because the state does not have enough housing for everyone who wants to live here. Something is wrong here. For example, if 15,000 citizens live in one region, and the region has 100 buildings for rent, and each of them has 50 units, then the total amount of units is 5,000. If two people live in each unit, that is the amount of 10,000 citizens. For 5,000 citizens, need to build new apartments and not to increase the rental prices of apartments in 100 buildings. There are some voices that the prices of rent increase will stop, and we don't know when. If, for example, in January 1st, 2021, do you know what the owners will do? They will increase rentals from 1,600 to 2,000 before that day. date, and so they will make a profit of 400, which is 25%, and that they would earn in some 5 years in annual increase. We need to stop it urgently. The city needs to hire forensic experts to go out on the field, check everything you need, and establish the facts. We will see if and where the omission occurred and what led to this situation with high cost of living. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your call. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Mary Movsesian. Mary, you are live with council.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is Mary Movsesian, and I'm calling today as a lifelong resident of Burbank. I'm calling to voice my support for agenda item N, number 6, and ask that the city stand in solidarity with the Armenian community of Burbank. I'm sorry if I get a little emotional, as this is extremely personal to me. Armenia and Artsakh are currently under attack by Azerbaijan as they attempt to take a land that is not theirs. Azerbaijan has violated ceasefire agreements, committed countless war crimes, and has launched a full-scale military attack against the Armenian people. With full support from Turkey and jihadist mercenaries, our soldiers, innocent civilians, are being killed. Churches, schools, towns, and our capital is being destroyed, even killing innocent lives in Burbank's friendship city of Hadrut. This is an important humanitarian crisis that should concern everyone. Artsakh, an Armenian land that predates Christ, has been and currently is populated by over 90% Armenians, and they need our help. The Armenian diaspora has been pleading to the federal leaders to intervene on this issue, to condemn these attacks, sanction Turkey, and cut aid to Azerbaijan. I would like all of today's viewers and listeners to understand that your tax dollars are funding this war and paying for the attempted second genocide against the Armenian people. Thousands of Armenians call Burbank their home and provide essential businesses here. We've built great communities here, and we share our culture and traditions with you. We immigrated to this city and called it home, and you have graciously accepted us. An introduction and passage of a resolution from the city of Burbank condemning Azerbaijan will provide the Armenian community here with some peace of mind, knowing that our home away from home has our back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for calling. Next caller, please.
Great.
Our next caller is Alyssa Cunningham. Alyssa, you are live with council.
Good evening, Mayor Springer, Vice Mayor Frutos, and council members. My name is Elisa Cunningham, and I'm the Vice President and Secretary for Burbank Housing Corp. I'm calling tonight to speak on behalf of our board in support for Chris Welker. Since 2009, Chris has served as the city representative on Burbank Housing Corp's board of directors. Through her many years with BHC, she has learned the organization's history, and she truly believes in and supports our mission. Her experience as a former Burbank Police Department officer and detective has guided us through numerous development projects and assists us today in constantly improving community safety. Chris is a valuable source of information, and we deeply value her knowledge. As the current board president, Chris has been actively involved in the decision-making process, which has been especially helpful due to the unprecedented impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, her role as president has assisted the organization with the transition of a new executive director and the current staff composition. She's not only a well-respected leader of the board of directors, but she's also a valued member of the Burbank community. On behalf of myself and the board of directors, we thank her for her commitment, and we couldn't imagine our board without her. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Dr. Michael Scandifio. Mr. Scandifio, you're live with council.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, City Council. I live in my house on Riverside Drive. I've lived there for 33 years. And during that time, well, I'm speaking in favor of the lowering the speed limit on Riverside Drive to 25 miles per hour. I understand that the police report documented accidents on Riverside Drive back to 2017. I have witnessed horrendous accidents and fatalities going back to 1987. The staff talks about specific CVC criteria for reducing speed, namely prevailing speed, accidents, and roadside conditions. I think the staff did not adequately address roadside conditions. I am sure that all of you know that Riverside Drive is a serpentine road with several sharp curves as it follows the old LA River. The problem is that drivers cannot anticipate these curves very often when they're going down Riverside Drive, and it's led to crashes in the wall at the park at Griffith and Riverside. And it's a unique roadway condition we have here. I'm sure many of you have driven down Mulholland Drive as well as Riverside Drive through the Rancho. And I think you would agree that the serpentine nature of both roads are very similar. So I ask you to reduce the speed to 25 miles an hour on Riverside Drive and 15 miles an hour in front of the park and the French school. This is the logical thing to do, and it's the right thing to do. And I don't think it's time to make a conservative interpretation of the California Vehicular Code as to speed traps. Please, just do it. If the state questions your decision, then you could always defend it with the facts and the logic. Besides, this issue has come up. It's official now, and you should act to mitigate, because if there's a fatality in the future like there hasn't been in the past, it might open the city up to liability, and we don't want that. I might also say that during the time of the Media District Specific Plan in 1990, there were commitments made to lower the speed on Riverside Drive to 25 miles an hour, as well as complete the sound wall through the Rancho where the Polywalk is. Those commitments were never met. So again, I urge you to reduce the speed, and because it's the right thing to do.
Thank you for your call. Your time is up. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Kate Scandifio. Kate, you are live with council.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I'm calling regarding the modification to speed limits on Riverside Drive. I'm a longtime resident of Riverside Drive in Burbank, and I just want to say that I think it's so vital that the city do something about reducing the speed limit on the street. Riverside Drive is a very curvy, windy road. It is not straight. In fact, I think it's arguably the curviest street in the San Fernando Valley. I believe most people aren't aware of that as they navigate down the road. As they start picking up speed around Keystone to Reese, they start losing control. Just last weekend, I witnessed a car flying around the bend at excessive speed, wheels screeching. I can't even recall how many times I've seen a car bypass the guy in front of him because he's impatient, right? Needs to go somewhere, has to get there fast. As you know, Riverside Drive has a school. It has a park with tennis and basketball courts and a playground for children. It's zoned for horses. And we also have many groups of bicycle riders making use of the cycle lanes. So I hope that when you're considering this issue, you'll do the smart thing as well as the right thing and reduce that speed limit to 25 miles per hour along Riverside Drive from Keystone to Main and 15 miles, say, from Morningside Park to the school. So I ask the council, please put safety first by reducing the traffic speed. I believe that taking this proactive step now will go a long way in preventing the city of Burbank from facing some horrible civil liability in the future. I thank you, council members, for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Tamala Takahashi. Tamala, you're live with council.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Pamela Takahashi. I would like to comment on 2 items tonight. First, I'm calling in regards to item number 6. I'm in support of a resolution to condemn the aggression against ArtSoc. It says in the staff report that the council generally does not take a position on international affairs as they do not affect Burbank. In this case, it may be an international event, but it has a direct effect on many of our residents who have family, loved ones, and friends who are in danger or who have been hurt. And we have a friendship city in ArtSoc, the city of Hadrat. It is a local issue because it affects our local community members. Therefore, I ask the council support this item and choose options 2 and 3 presented in the staff report. The second item I would like to address is a general comment in regards to the use of plastic and takeout containers, which is creating an immense amount of unrecyclable trash in our landfills. Before COVID, we had a plastic bag ban, a plastic straw restriction, and there had been just been a law passed to allow for personal takeout containers. We were also making progress towards reduction of styrofoam usage. But this has been waylaid. In a recent city council meeting, a council member asked for an update about plastics and takeout containers. However, I do not see it on the agenda forecast. Now that we know what our new normal is during COVID, can we revisit this topic of plastics and takeout containers? Thank you for your time and have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you for calling. Next caller, please.
Our next caller is Jarl Ware Lindfors. Jarl, you're live with council.
Yes.
Caller is Jarl Ware Lindfors. Jarl, you're live with council.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Lansford, we can hear you.
Very good. Good evening, Council and Mayor. It's been a long time since I've speaking.
Mr. Lansford, could you please turn off your? Do you have your radio or your television if you have it on?
Yes, I have. Trying to do this with 2 cell phones is rather difficult.
Okay, I think that's better. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't called for some time. I have subscribed to too many free news feeds. I'm getting 50 emails a day, which sometimes I even read. But I wanted to say thanks for the toilets on Glen Oaks and the washing stations, and also thanks for the idea to set up outdoor eating. That's an excellent idea. But I wanted to say, to open the city, that toilets are the key. And many businesses for the last 6 months have had their toilets locked up, so nobody can use them. And people are not going to want to go out to eat or to shows without the toilets. So that's something the city can do, is order every business that sells food to open up their toilets. Businesses like Starbucks and some of the drugstores still have them locked. And going back to the homeless, they also need water, especially in the heat, and electricity for the cell phones, neither which anybody has anymore because the libraries are still all closed. So I wanted to say that the city is not going back to normal anytime soon. The life is not normal. Infections are going up again. Unemployment is still 2 or 3 times normal. And herd immunity would be 90 to 95% of the people being infected, and only less than 10% are infected. So I wanted to protest the start of parking enforcement. We should not do any enforcement while we're not back to normal yet. To think that we can have parking enforcement.
Mr. Lunsford, your time is up. Thank you for calling. Next caller, please.
Madam Mayor, we don't have any more callers in queue, so it's safe to go ahead and close it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There being no further public comment, I now declare public comment period is closed. Now is the time for a brief response from City Council, the City Manager, and/or the City Attorney. Council members, yes, Councilmember Gabel-Letty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to thank everybody who called in this evening. We have a vote this evening, so I'm going to save my comments for that, but I appreciate everyone who stepped forward to apply for the position at the Burbank Housing Corporation. I also want to thank the speakers who spoke about Riverside Drive, and I do hope that you will stay on for that item. I'm going to show a video tonight to council, and you are more than welcome to watch it, obviously. I think it helps, it will help, but I'll stop there. And for Mr. Linfors, we discussed a lot about parking and enforcement, and we are at a point where our streets are becoming degraded because of the trash and the accumulation of things in the curbs and the gutters. And it makes sense for us to start our regular street sweeping again, so that we have a kind of a better environment in our community as we move through the difficulties that you and our whole community is aware of. So again, thank you all for calling in this evening. We will be talking about the resolution, and I look forward to that discussion. And I just appreciate how much you care about our community, that you take the time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
I'd like to thank all the callers for participating and sharing their viewpoints and their thoughts with the council. And I'm not going to weigh in on the Burbank Housing Corporation, but I would like to thank Chris Welker for calling in and stepping up again. And we'll see which way the votes go. But thank you so much for everything that you have done as a police lieutenant, retired now, and your contribution to the Burbank Housing Corporation. Enough said with that. Thank you very much, because I see the city attorney looking at me.
Thank you. Other comments, responses? Okay, I'd like to thank all the callers, and we'll hold my comments until we reach those agenda items. And Mr. Lunsford, I know that the toilets and the washing stations have been very helpful, and we're all looking forward to the library opening, but we just have to wait until it's safe. Thank you. The consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. Ms. Mullins, please read the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Consent calendar, item number 1 is to approve the minutes for September 29th. And item 2 is Housing Authority minutes, is to approve the minutes for June 9th, 2020.
Is there a motion? Yes, Councilmember Murphy, and a second by Councilmember Talamantes.
Okay, Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Talamantes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghiberletti?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frutos?
Yes.
Mayor Springer?
Yes.
Thank you.
There are 4 reports to council tonight. Our first report is for an appointment to fill a vacancy on the Burbank Housing Corporation Board of Directors for a full 2-year term. Will City Clerk Zizette Mullins please present the item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On September 1st, 2020, the City Clerk's Office began to advertise for the vacancy on the Burbank Housing Corporation Board of Directors for a 2-year term. The vacancy is scheduled the vacancy is scheduled to expire on October. The current position is scheduled to expire on October 31st, 2020. We began advertising at the following locations: the city website, the city council meeting announcement, social media platform, press release to Burbank Leader and myburbank.com. Notices also were posted on the bulletin board and through community organizations throughout the city. The deadline to submit the application was Wednesday, September 30th at 5 p.m. And we received 2 applications during this time. One is Chris Welker and the other one is Miriam Carbedian. The applications are listed in the order we received. Unless council has any questions for me, I'm happy to start with taking the vote.
Questions? Okay, please take the vote.
Thank you. I'm going to read the 2 names into the record, and then we'll take one at a time. The first one, as I said, Chris Welker, and the other one is Miriam Carbedian. Now I'm taking the vote for Chris Welker.
It's unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. I was trying to figure out the last hand there. I couldn't see it. Thank you. Chris Welker, congratulations, being appointed to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. The next report is for consideration of modification to speed limits on Riverside Drive. Will Public Works Director Ken Berkman please present the report?
Good evening, Honorable Council and Honorable Mayor. At the May 5th, 2020 Council meeting, Councilmember Gable Luddy requested a first step report to discuss the potential lowering of speed limits on Riverside Drive due to the presence of equines in the Rancho Master Plan area. The first step report was provided to the Council at the September 29th meeting. Additional information regarding complete accident data and speed traps was requested and is provided in this second step report. The California Vehicle Code requires specific methods to legally establish speed limits. The City of Burbank is in compliance with this process. The last citywide engineering and traffic survey was completed in 2015, which established the current speed limit of 35 miles per hour on Riverside Drive within the city's limits. The most recent survey for Riverside Drive within the Rancho Master Plan area was conducted in February 2020 as part of the next citywide survey effort by staff and provided the speed and accident data shown in Table 1. This second step staff report also includes a number of vehicular collisions, noting there were a total of 25 incidents reported over the past 3 years between Keystone and Chavez, which includes those shown with pedestrians, cyclists, and horses. The Burbank Police Department also went back 10 years to research equestrian conflicts on Riverside Drive and found only the one incident shown in Table 1 involving a loose horse with no rider. The reason staff did not outwardly include the vehicular collision numbers in the first step report was because they were provided in the collision rate data, which is used to determine the speed limits in accordance with the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or the MUTCD. Collision rates are a critical factor in determining speed limits. A collision rate is calculated by dividing the total number of collisions by the annual accident volume. With regard to the term speed traps also need to be considered by agencies when setting speed limits. The vehicle code prohibits the use of a speed trap for enforcement, including for arrest or as evidence in prosecution for speed violations. The vehicle code generally defines a speed trap as an unenforceable speed limit due to improper establishment, which includes any speed limit on a collector or arterial street that is not justified by an engineering and traffic survey. Public Works evaluated the speed limit by applying two options in accordance with the MUTCD and the vehicle code. The first option considers the prevailing speed, the accident records, roadside conditions not readily apparent to the driver, and residential density. A determination is made whether any conditions are significant and warrant the recommendation of the speed limit 5 miles an hour or more below the prevailing speed. Collision rates were calculated based on the past 3-year history and compared to the expected collision rate in Los Angeles County. The collision rates for these segments located within the Rancho Master Plan area exceeded the expected rates and is one of the factors that set the speed limit at 35 miles per hour as opposed to the 85th percentile speed of 40. The second option simply allows the agency to round down to the lower 5 miles per hour increment, but we cannot reduce the speed limit any further for any reason. Given the 85th percentile speed of 39.2, as shown in Table 3, a limit of 35 miles an hour could be set. So in conclusion, based on the requirements of the MUTCD and the vehicle code, the city has already reduced the speed limit on these segments of Riverside Drive as low as we legally can be reduced, as low as they can legally be reduced. This report verifies the data and conclusions presented in the first step report as accurate. Should council wanted to consider any further reductions in speed limits that are not justified by an engineering and traffic survey, it should be understood that such action may prevent the city from enforcing those speed limits. That concludes my report, and we remain to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Berkman, for your report. Okay, council, questions? Yes, Councilmember Gable-Letty.
Well, Madam Mayor, first I want to thank Mr. Berkman for his report. We had a very cordial conversation last week, and I appreciate his very straightforward approach to this. It does raise a larger issue, and I did bring a 6-minute video tonight to council so that everybody could understand what the larger issue is. If council doesn't object, I'd just like to go forward and share that video with you.
Thank
and
you.
By way of introduction, it is exactly about the 85th percentile, where it originated, how it's been used, and what the new thinking is about its relevance in the cities of today. So I'd ask the staff to play the tape.
Not Mike and Roy.
Not Mike and Roy.
In 2008, Los Angeles did a traffic study here on Zelda Avenue. The city's Department of Transportation found most drivers were speeding, and the crash rate was higher than expected. So they decided to raise the speed limit. Later, they did another traffic study. Many drivers were still speeding, and so they raised the speed limit again. These changes weren't by accident. They're based on an archaic rule that basically lets drivers determine their own speed limits. It's called the 85th percentile rule. You've probably never heard of it, but urban planners sure have.
I could talk forever on its place in the world.
It's become the most common rule used in setting speed limits.
It's again this terrible feedback loop and cycle that results in a street being unsafe.
So this is how it works. Engineers measure how fast cars are driving on a street, and whatever speed 85% of cars are driving under is the new speed limit. Seriously, that's it. And you can imagine there are a couple big problems with this approach, especially in cities. For one, it ignores everyone who isn't driving. And it creates this feedback loop. People drive faster, you raise the speed limit. People drive faster, you raise the speed limit. People drive faster. Okay, so you can even hear this play out in Sammy Hagar's famous speeding anthem in 1984. And in 2001. Today, the 85th percentile rule is everywhere. But it wasn't always like that. The rule dates all the way back to the 1930s, when companies were starting to produce cars that could go way faster than before. To keep up with the technology, cities and states basically had to invent speed limits on the fly. And yeah, they had no idea how to do that. So the rule started kind of as a thought experiment. If you assume most people drive at a speed they feel is safe, maybe you could just look at what most drivers are doing and use that to find the real safe speed.
An old ITE document describes it as drivers voting with their feet, and that's really what it ends up becoming.
So rather than trying to figure out, well, with this curve and this width of lane and this much traffic, what would be the safe traffic, let's just measure people with unregulated traffic and assume that about 85% of the people would be going at or below a reasonable speed.
At the time, the rule was for wide rural highways, not cities. And basically everyone saw this just as a starting point. You also have to check back to make sure the speeds are actually safe.
So over time, this reasonable place to kind of start and then do some follow-up studies to see if it was working out started to become from a rule of thumb to a rule.
The 85th percentile rule really became ingrained in the 60s after a popular study gave it some scientific clout. Researchers took a bunch of rural highway crash reports and looked at how fast each driver was going, and they came up with this curve. It basically says it's dangerous to drive too fast, and it's also dangerous to drive too slow. So the 85th percentile speed, the speed right around here, traffic planners started thinking of that as the safe speed. Here's the problem. That logic hasn't held up well. For one, it didn't account for turning cars, which make up most of these slow-speed crashes. Look at how the crash rate drops when you remove turning cars. Next, speeding is dangerous. Fast drivers just can't see their surroundings as well, and they take longer to stop in an emergency. And a high-speed crash is way more likely to kill a pedestrian than a slower one. Finally, the study only looked at rural highways.
Cities aren't like that. Cities are where people interact.
And when you use an approach that is only based on the cars and the trucks on the street, then you're not accounting for the other users on the street, and you're not accounting for the users who might come to the street if the speeds were safer and it felt like a more comfortable place to walk a bike.
There's so much wrong with this rule that the federal government's own speed limit guidebook now has this little footnote. The original research between speed and safety, which purported that the safest travel speed is the 85th percentile speed, is dated research and may not be valid under scrutiny. But despite all the rule's flaws, cities have struggled to find a good alternative. Enter this. It's a new guidebook from NACTO, an urban transportation coalition that focuses on designing streets for walking, biking, and transit. The guidebook lays out a new way to set speed limits. Start by examining the road's traffic speeds and crash history. Also, look at all the ways a crash might happen in the future by measuring activity level, how busy a certain street is, and conflict density, how often pedestrians, cyclists, or cars could cross each other's paths. Remember that street from earlier that kept raising the speed limit, Zelda Avenue? According to this method, its speed limit should be 20 miles per hour, not 45. Now this brings up an interesting point. Zelda is a big 4-lane road. It's designed for people to drive fast. On a road like that, just changing the speed limit might not do much. You need to change the design too. And Realistically, that's what NACTO sees as the path forward.
By lowering speed limits and using design changes, you'll encourage people in your city to ride a bike to work, to walk to work, to take transit, and that is what makes the city more environmentally sustainable and a city that encourages people to drive in their cars and to drive fast.
So I've been thinking a great deal about a pathway forward, and I'm certainly interested in all of Council's comments and questions of Mr. Berkman, and I do appreciate that we have recent traffic counts along Riverside. As you can see, the 85th percentile as an idea is almost 90 years old. And it seems like it was perfected 60 years ago. And we have a consistently evolving circumstance. We, the council, recently adopted the Complete Streets Plan, for example. We have established that as a policy going forward. So it becomes a refocus away from exclusively vehicular traffic to one that looks at all the users of a public right-of-way. And the point of NACTO and the work that they're doing is to look at alternative ways of setting a speed limit. Now, I'm not going to pretend we can easily do that on our own. As I know Mr. Talamantes knows from working with Sacramento and the rest of you know, but there is a conversation going on right now, and it suggests to me that there are some things that we can do to plan to get lucky. Just like our water and power does it, we could do it by engaging our staff and asking our staff to engage the cities next door to us on some segments within the city of Burbank and adjacent to consider how we could approach a pilot program and how we could, as a companion to that, add to our legislative platform a desire to change the California Vehicle Code. The California Vehicle Code, as Mr. Berkman clearly said, sets the 85th percentile as the measuring device. 2 years ago, Assemblywoman Friedman set forth a bill to try and get modifications to streets to make them safer for pedestrians. She was unsuccessful to get a change, but she was successful in setting up a committee that began to evaluate alternatives to the 85th percentile. And that committee, that group, recently made a presentation to SCAG. It was 2 months ago. And they're going to make a further presentation up in Sacramento. I think Councilmember Talamantes is very familiar with that. With that in mind, look, our callers are right. Just take the example of Riverside Drive. It's winding. In fact, if you look at a city street map, it is the only winding street in the city. Curvilinear, and I think Mr. Murphy's familiar with it. I know I'm familiar with it. It's different than a straight shot like Empire Avenue or Alameda. So there are factors that I know Mr. Berkman and the traffic engineers will say, we consider these, but I'm asking that we turn a page and take some action this evening to direct our staff to do some additional work on this and not just close it up and walk away. I don't think the speaker who asked for a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit will be satisfied. I don't see how we get there. I wanted to get back to 30, but I have been told by law enforcement who writes the tickets and by the traffic engineers who do the studies that we can't get it done. So these are my thoughts to move this forward. I would like you to consider directing our staff, our public works staff, to pull together all the traffic and survey data that was done in 2015, the last time we took a formal action on Riverside. Pull that data together and make it available to all of us, and also hold a community meeting to see if residents would even accept a lower speed limit without enforcement. I have been told it was done in Agora Hills. I don't know the details. I don't know that our community would accept it. I think there'd probably be a big argument that there are liability issues. But I think that the first item would be to direct our staff to hold a community meeting and have a discussion with these kind of statistics in hand and help educate the community about how things are currently set. The second thing I would, and in the process of doing that, take a look at Seattle, Toronto, and Boston, which apparently are doing speed reductions. The second request I would make is that we consider adding 3 or 4 additional street segments within Burbank where there are noticeable pedestrian and bicycle users, lots of users. So, for example, in Toluca Lake, Riverside Drive, in Magnolia Park, Magnolia Boulevard, right around Hollywood Way intersection, and then to the east. And possibly Empire Avenue, just west of Buena Vista, where it's a straight shot, but there are cyclists. I don't know what the accident rate is, but those are 4 examples. Direct our staff to engage with the traffic engineers and the transportation planners from the adjoining cities, and it'd be Glendale and Burbank and Los Angeles, and discuss a potential pilot program or pilot projects that would anticipate or help us change that state law. And then finally, I'd ask the council in the development of a new legislative platform, which we will be doing shortly, and we had the federal report this evening, to recognize that we are hemmed in by the state vehicle code, and so our advocacy could be changing the state code. So those are and ask the staff as a completion of another step to come back with a report on what they've seen for other street segments in the city, how well they've been able to communicate and work with other transportation planners and traffic engineers, and come up with alternative thoughts that will help us advance our advocacy to change the California Vehicle Code. So it's a big ask, but I think it's worth it. And since we adopted complete streets, I think we should move forward with something like this. So those are my thoughts going forward.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Albano.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me inject myself. I know that council loathes this part when I do this, but I feel compelled. Tonight's agenda item was provide staff direction on reducing speed limits on Riverside to accommodate equestrian users. And it was somewhat narrow in scope based on the original first step, second step. And some of the items that the council member Gabaletti just outlined, I believe there were 4. 2 of them seem to be within the agenda item, and 2 clearly seem to be outside of that. And what I would ask is the potential pilot project, changing state law, that if you're interested in that we have that come back as that's something separate, that would be an appropriate item, because what we didn't talk about and what wasn't agendized is a change in how speed limits are done. And I think that is a much broader conversation that might have provoked more people to want to be involved in understanding what would be discussed as opposed to a speed limit set for one particular area that's equestrian centric of the city. And the idea of asking for I'm sorry now because I was taking notes. You did ask us to look at what did we do in 2015, making that available. You asked that we maybe convene a community meeting out at Riverside over if we lowered it without enforcement, how did people feel? I feel all of that goes to how do you reduce the speed limit out at Riverside. So I'm making a distinction between what's more Riverside eccentric and what was listed on the agenda so that we're not in violation of the Brown Act, and the things that are a much broader conversation that you have set the table for, and I would ask that you bring those back as additional agenda items for the future, either as a first step or if you choose to say it's just a continuation of this as a second step, or that you bring it up when we bring the legislative platform. But to do a whole potential pilot program and looking at these cities and moving forward a new way to look at how we set speed limits is really beyond the scope of what was in front of you this evening. So thank you for hearing me out, and I would ask that the council act within the confines of what I tried to set out for this evening. So thank you.
So, so what I'm hearing is maybe it should come back. We have the Riverside project to reduce the speed limit there. That's on the agenda tonight. But also maybe have alternative ways to set speed limits in Burbank should be another item, 1 step, 2 step.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Yes.
Because, actually Riverside's not the only curvy street. Sunset Canyon is too. Also without sidewalks and lots of pedestrian and bicycle users. So Councilmember Gable-Letty, do you want to pick it up from here and maybe?
Well, I'd like to hear from other council members if they even, I can deal with the Riverside. With Riverside, if we want to stay on the narrow guardrails of Riverside, I would ask that we direct staff to hold a community meeting, provide the old 2015 traffic and survey studies. I mean, the raw data, which I'm sure is in Ken Johnson's old file somewhere, and the new data, and sit with our community and explain with them, talk with them about how this gets set up and how it, and what the current rules are. And I think that would be very educational and very helpful. With respect to Riverside, I would say that in the process of doing that, our staff should also reach out to Glendale, because Riverside Drive is recognized through both ranchos for the same consideration due to the nature of the neighborhood. So it would be still Riverside Drive, but we'd ask our staff to talk to the Glendale traffic engineers and transportation officials and talk about this idea of what options might we think about in terms of trying to change state legislation that would help accommodate the broad range of users on Riverside Drive, from the Glendale boundary at Victory to Chavez, and from Chavez to Keystone and Burbank. And then as far as the other matters, Madam Mayor, I'm fine with it coming back. It's just, as I started looking into this, it seemed to be, as the city attorney correctly identified, there might be other opportunities in our city. And you mentioned Bel Air or Sunset Canyon. It's perfect because I know the curve I know one of the curves you're speaking of, and I know for a fact that there are no sidewalks there. So yes, I'm happy with the second part coming back.
Yes, Councilmember Talamantes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be supportive of our staff reaching out to Glendale and seeing if we have a common interest in Riverside. Obviously, it does affect both cities. See what they've done. Maybe they've already researched it. Maybe they already looked into it. I'd like to see what they've done or what they're willing to cooperate with us and to move forward, especially Riverside, because of the equestrian situation we have there, not only in Burbank, but Glendale as well. But as far as community meetings, I don't know if we get any real information. We have to approach our electeds. I mean, those are the people that are going to carry the torch. If none of them are interested in attacking the California Vehicle Code, where do we go? I guess we can start petitioning. We can start taking some signatures. But I mean, it'd be really nice. It'd be the most convenient and easiest way is to have one of our electeds take it up to Sacramento and say, you know what, Burbank or Glendale, Burbank have a common concern, and we want to address the California Vehicle Code and see what kind of changes we can make. And then we can have like the young lady that came to SCAG and gave her presentation. It was very well done. She was part of the speakers here in your 6-minute video. But as far as the other ideas, I wouldn't be very supportive of it because it really is going beyond, like the city attorney said, beyond what this agenda item calls for. You introduce another 2 or 3 agenda items just in your ask, which is great. That's the way to do it. If it goes under the radar, it goes through. But like I said, Riverside, due to the fact that the police department has weighed in, our engineers have weighed in. The most recent study was February of 2020, 8 months ago. And I know over the years, I've been as a firefighter paramedic. I've been on Riverside Drive several times due to accidents. Motorcycles are laid down, cars, but that's going back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Here we're looking at most recent events, 3 years worth of information. It just not having the ability, if we lower it, if we decide, and the public says, yeah, lower to 30, we don't care what happens. As far as our PD is concerned, we can't enforce it now. That's what I get from the report and the comments that I hear. So I wouldn't be in favor of doing that. I'd be in favor of finding out from Glendale what they've done, even if there's a concern over in Glendale. Maybe there isn't a concern, but maybe we'll bring it up, and now it becomes a concern that they're willing to cooperate with us and move forward as we meet with our elected officials to possibly have them, one of the 3, carry the torch and have the fight with the California Vehicle Code. Those are my thoughts right now, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Albano?
Yes, thank you. So, Council, I'm going to maybe be a little more explicit because maybe I wasn't quite as clear as I should have been. The idea of changing state legislation is not on the agenda tonight. So if council members have an opinion onto that, I think that's the kind of thing we need to hold for a different meeting. You could either have it come back during the, as you said, that the legislative platform will be coming back to council soon. Do we know when approximately? Sorry, I'm catching the city manager off. I know it's
No. We are, that's why we started our process tonight with our federal legislative team. We'll have our state advocacy firm coming up. And so I think our plan is to have an edited version of our legislative platform back to the council by the end of the year. So I think in late November, early December, we'll have that to you for consideration.
So, I mean, it's an appropriate part to put it up then or to ask it to come back as a second step for that. And if you're interested in discussing that topic, you can say, I'm interested in discussing the topic of the vehicle code. But just, and Councilmember Talamontes, you weren't really saying one way or the other, but I just didn't want to have a big discussion about what it might take to change the vehicle code, as much as if you're interested in saying, yes, I'd like a further discussion about the vehicle code, that's okay to say, but I really am asking that you not go further or express your opinion one way or the other about the vehicle code for tonight, and that we can then have it come back as a further second step, or when the legislative process, I will leave that to the council if you ask that it be brought back as a second step, Councilmember Gabeletti. So just so that we can make sure that members of the public understand what we're talking about and have the ability to weigh in when you're having that discussion. So thank you again.
Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I almost think that this agenda item needs to come back when we can fully really discuss it. I believe staff has given us the facts, but being a policeman and having no enforcement, I think that sometimes if the sign does go up and it goes down to the point that we really can't do legal enforcement per the vehicle code, then people are going to say, hey, every time that, say everybody goes back to work and Disney is fully staffed and people use the cut through down Riverside, and they're saying, hey, you guys lowered the speed limit, but God, we got people flying down the street at 4:30 in the afternoon. I think that gives a false sense to the residents, because officers, especially on a windy road, they really set up on their motorcycles and use radar, to document the speed. So I think I would recommend this comes back with the other item for future discussion, so we can maybe blend it together and have a broader discussion. But I do remember when this came up in February 2020, one of the problems that came up, and it was frustrating for the residents, is that in the city of Glendale, they were already at the posted higher speed limit, and Burbank at that time was set behind. So this report, we're kind of like going back to what we discussed back in February, where the reality is, obviously I can't discuss it. I think this really needs to come back so we can really give staff direction in a more robust conversation. So, but I definitely want to see what we can do to work on this agenda item. But I think it's probably best for it to come back so we can really discuss everything versus very narrow right now. I'm not done fighting hard for this, but I still believe we got to have an enforcement component if we're going to lower the speed limit, but we can't do it based on the report that is in front of us. So I'd rather be smarter and just do something that we have no muscle for. Those are just my thoughts. I'm listening to the other council members.
Councilmember Gabeletti.
Member Murphy hasn't spoken yet, so
Okay.
I want to just yield my time.
Okay, Councilmember Murphy.
I've been trying. There's a lot to talk about. First of all, I'd asked for additional information that's not here. Last week, I specifically said there's been a number of car-on-car accidents, especially parked cars, illegally parked in front of the residents. One man has had 3 cars totaled in front of his house. That's not here. I don't know why that's not important. I know the beginning of the report was more concerned with horses and traffic, but traffic and safety are always important. When I learned to drive, I remember my driving instructor giving me a simple rule of thumb. He said, Tim, if there's houses, it's a residential zone, and you should be driving 25 miles an hour or less. If it's commercial, you're okay to go 35. If you look at Riverside, in Burbank, it's mostly residential. From Keystone all the way to Chavez, except for right beyond that, then you've got the school. And with our new Safe to School program that we've instituted, my understanding is when school's in session, it's 15 miles an hour and then 25 miles an hour the rest of the time. So 35 miles an hour just makes no sense. I realize it's the law according to this 86th percentile, which makes no sense at all. There's a saying in my business, which is law. Sometimes the law is an ass, and this is one of those times. Now, I was here for the media district specific plan. Let me dust myself off. 1989. At that time, Riverside was a 4-lane street, 2 lanes in each direction. Because of the traffic that we anticipated, it seemed like kind of a radical idea at the time, but the people that lived in Rancho asked for us to consider 1 lane in each direction, specifically to make it safer, specifically to keep their homes from being flooded with cars. We did that. According to Mr. Scandifio, who's a very bright man and was a regular council participant at that time, we also promised to lower the speed limit. I can't say I remember that, but if he says it's so, and apparently we didn't do that, and he also brought up the issue of the sound wall, which I guess we need to take a look at too. But I'm generally supportive of trying to reduce the speed limit legally, whatever that means. And thank you for your ideas.
Yes, Councilmember Gabaletti.
Well, first, I don't know that the community that lives along Riverside Drive would embrace an idea of lower speed limit and no enforcement. I just don't think they know. And if we're trying to educate our community to help us arrive at good decisions, I am, and I respect the vice mayor's position, being a cop and knowing about the enforcement side of it. I think we have to talk with our community about that also. So with respect to Riverside, I would push for a community meeting. There are probably 6 or 10 people who'd be very interested in having that discussion, understanding how it works, looking at the old data, looking at the new data, and just thinking their way through it. Because maybe the answer for them and us on Riverside is better signage, signs that say curve, reduce speed, or sign. We have the signs on either side, right? We have the sign, the horse images on either side. So when you go into the side streets, you know, or you should know, there are horses sharing the road. But when you drive east from Disney onto Riverside Drive, you don't necessarily know that it's a district of multiple users. So maybe there's signage that says, watch out for pedestrians and bikes and horses. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe we need a speed cart, a permanent speed sign, that the kind that used to be on South Main Street, that would tell the driver how fast you are going. Now, I don't know, and maybe the police know, or the vice mayor knows, anecdotally, I think people slow down when they see their speed and they look at those signs. So I am also interested in other techniques that the staff could consider and come back to us for, if we're talking the Riverside segment, Burbank and Glendale together, so that we have, that there's more than one way to reduce speed. And Councilmember Murphy, I'm so glad to hear about how you and others stepped up years ago to listen to some of the needs and took Riverside from a 4-lane to a 2 in each direction with a bike path. I mean, that was fantastic. Now, what I hope to get to eventually is that we really take all the steps we can to defeat the speeders, or at least inform them of curves, of animals crossing, of pedestrians, of cyclists, and that we think about how that information can educate the drivers that go through that residential neighborhood. Because if it works here, it can work in other neighborhoods. but I'm not afraid to ask the community what they think. They need to know that if you reduce it and you can't enforce it, they need to know that. Anyway, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm still going to push for a community meeting. I'm happy with it coming back yet again. I would ask the staff to come up with some additional ideas about maybe signage or curved signs, and certainly talking to Glendale and see what they've been thinking about and what they've done. And obviously we need to coordinate across elected official Glendale Burbank boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Councilmember Gablehead, if you want to make that into a motion, I'll second it to see what the other council members feel. If you'd like to make that motion, I'll second it.
Move.
Second.
Okay.
That includes a community meeting.
Yep.
Additional signage.
Yep.
Yes.
Working with Glendale.
Mr. Berkman.
Getting all the old statistics.
Yes.
Yep.
And the new. And
Yep.
I don't know if I left anything out.
Yep. Second.
The kitchen sink.
I support, moving forward to reduce the speeds on Riverside. I mean, I think it's a beautiful roadway. And if that happened by reducing it from 2 lanes to 1 in each direction, I've run on Riverside and I've also been on a bicycle on it. And there are no sidewalks, so you have to walk in the street, you have to walk in the bike lane. So I think I support moving forward with.
Madam Mayor, I think Mr. Berkman was raising his hand.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was going to suggest that Mr. Berkman wanted to respond to one of the questions that came up from, I believe, Councilmember Murphy, and then just add a little perspective to the staffing in this area.
Sure. Mr. Berkman.
Thank you. City Manager Wilkie, Honorable Mayor, council members, a few things. For Councilmember Murphy, Riverside is actually an arterial, and when you talk about a residential area, it's not a local residential street. So it is somewhere that we set speed limits in accordance with the CVC, not just simply like a 25-mile-an-hour local street, prima facie type of speed. For the amount of parked car incidences, as far as accident goes, in that table 1, in the report, you probably noticed there's 25 total collisions, and of those, 7 involve parked cars per the Burbank Police Department data. For Councilmember Gablehead, we do have advanced curve warning signs out there, and it's something staff could take a look at to see if there's any other applicable signs. Traffic engineering and civil engineering, we like to make sure we're not causing sign pollution where we have so many signs out there that people lose them and ignore them, but it's something we can look at for sure. And lastly, as far as timing for all the items for staff to do potentially, if the motion passes, I would like to suggest from a timing standpoint, you probably know our city traffic engineer is no longer with us. And I'm working with management services right now to set up a recruitment and hire that person. And as you might have caught from the data I mentioned from February 2020 on Riverside, staff was collecting that because we were in the middle of, we were starting the next citywide engineering and traffic survey. And the coronavirus came and with traffic volumes and folks at home, we stopped that effort. Excuse me. So I'd also suggest for as far as traffic regulations and studies, we may want to consider at least until that time when we have a city traffic engineer on board that can work with staff to address all the things that you would like us to take a look at. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Gablehead, comments on that?
Well, I know that, yes, COVID has put us way behind everything. And I also am deeply sensitive to the fact that I may be talking to you as a former council member. But I do think it's worth it to move ahead. And if the staff, maybe it's possible to engage the assistance of David Kriske in the transportation department, and you know, to help with some alternative ideas. I mean, we're a little city. Everybody works and talks to one another all the time. So I just, I'd ask for a yes to go ahead and ask the staff if they couldn't come back with any other alternative thoughts in the first part of December on taking a second look at signs, Mr. Berkman, like you said. Maybe those speed indicators, you know, we have the trailers, but we had those permanent ones on South Main until the stop signs went in and then they were taken out. So maybe they could be located somewhere on Riverside Drive. I'm not saying where, and I'm not saying clutter it up, but I think it's a rich opportunity to do something. And then as far as the legislative platform, I heard the city attorney. Without taking a position, I'd be happy to talk about that when we have the legislative platform come before us. Without taking a position tonight.
Yes, Councilmember Talamantes.
I just want to get clarification from my colleague, Councilmember Gabaletti. Are you putting forth a substitute motion?
No.
So we're still working with the original motion in second?
Yes.
In spite of what was just told to us by the Public Works Director?
I would modify my motion if it makes for greater clarity. If the Public Works Director and staff can come back with any additional signage or speed, I don't know what you call them, speed trailer, permanent speed trailer things, to come back on that basis first, and then defer, I suppose, having the community meeting and meeting with the city of Glendale. I would like to see us go ahead, but I am mindful of the absence of a traffic engineer to really focus on it. And so I would still like to see us go ahead. I guess I'm advocating for it. And
Right.
If you can think of a better way to separate it out, I'm all ears.
So to move it forward, and we're not quite sure exactly all the steps and if it's going to take signs and how it moves forward, but that's what you'd like to do.
Let me try this.
Okay.
I think sooner than later, we could get all the data that set the 2015 decision and all the data that's available right now. As Mr. Berkman indicated, they started for the 2020 data for Riverside Drive. That data's existing. We just don't have it. Sooner than later, by December, by the end of November. And secondly, by December, by the end of November, staff recommendations on how we could improve the signage or the speed indicators. So that's sooner than later. And then the second part of it, which is later, is a community meeting to have a more robust discussion about what it means, how the speeds are set, and maybe by then we'll have some options for signage and speed indicators. So does that make sense, Council? Does that help?
Well, you broke it up into two. I'm in full support of the first two that you mentioned, moving forward. Now the second, I mean, you're saying sooner than later, and also these two are wrapped up into one. It's still the same motion. So, you know, that's why I was asking, kind of, are you willing to set up a new motion, or just if you in the second are willing to, just make a new motion. I mean, it would be a little bit more clear to me. I don't know about the other council members. But I'm in favor of doing something. But just having heard from the Public Works Director, the position he's in, with lack of his traffic engineer, who's going to be the leader in this whole conversation. And the fact that we have a report before us that says if we drop it any below 35, police department is not going to be able to do anything there.
Right.
So I'm in favor of reaching out to Glendale and seeing if they have any problems or they're willing to work with us. And the first thing that you mentioned before in regards to the signage, see what available signage we can put up, because this is a large elephant. I mean, the sooner we can put things up, the more obviously the safer it's going to be sooner. And I'm in agreement with it. I want to make it as safe as possible. But
Then
considering the other circumstances as well.
Right. Vice Mayor, I'm going to withdraw my motion and try again. So I'm going to move that we direct the staff to look at methods to further reduce speeds, such as new signage or better signage in the appropriate locations, and consider permanent speed trailers. I hate to call them trailers, but y'all know, what do you call those, Mr. Berkman?
Yes, council member, you call them speed feedback signs. The ones that go on the pole and they flash the speed?
Yes.
Understood.
Thank you.
Sure.
Speed feedback signs to be brought back to the council with recommendation in the beginning of December.
I second that.
Oh, I just have a question. What about the community outreach?
What I hear is that would have to be done at a later time, and the council could discuss it in December when the staff come back with the short-term recommendations for improvement.
What about the data?
Yes, and I would ask for the data. Okay,
Yeah.
So my motion includes the data, council members, 215 and 220. The signage and the speed signs, speed feedback signs. Three things. The community meeting, Madam Mayor, would be something that the council could further discuss at the December meeting. But I wouldn't ask the staff to have done that between now, mid-October, and the beginning of December.
I agree.
Got
I
it.
second that.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Mayor, do you want to third it? Well, honestly, I so appreciate you helping me work through this, because it couldn't be done without all of your input and feedback. And I'm outraged we can't reduce the speed limit. I'll tell you what I would do, Riverside Drive, we redesignate it a local street.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Berkman would have a difficult time with that. But it's residential. It's got all kinds of users in the rights of way. A redesignated local street is 25 miles an hour? I mean, it's got all the hallmarks of it. But, so let's take this next step.
Okay. So ready?
Okay, Councilmember Ghiberletti,
Yes.
Councilmember Talamantes,
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frutos,
Yes.
Mayor Springer.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so I just have a question about the other part of it, the alternative ways to set speed limits. So that would have to come back as another agenda item?
Yes.
1 step, 2 step, or it would be the second step? One first
I
step.
think that's if what I was trying to say earlier, sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor, is that if the council's interested in discussing that further, I think you could bring it back as a second step. There
Okay, so
seemed to
it's
be
already at the
interest-
second step. Okay. Okay, so we'll address that at the end of the meeting then. Okay. Thank you. The next report is a status update on the City of Burbank Economic Recovery Plan. Will Mary Hamzoyan, Economic Development Manager, please commence the presentation.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Mary Hamzoyan with the Community Development Department. I am here today to provide you with an update on the Economic Recovery Plan that was adopted by City Council back in 2020. The goal of the plan is to help improve Burbank's economy through short-term and long-term strategies that lessen the impacts of COVID on our community. The plan addresses the 3 cycles of, The plan will cover 7 policies. We share information, we promote business, we assist vulnerable members of the community, we implement online tools, update regulations and policies, help improve tourism, and collaborate with government representatives. All of these are done with short-term and long-term goals within the plan. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, the plan provides short-term and long-term action items and goals within the following key 6 areas: economic development, housing, homelessness, transportation, building and safety, and planning. While many of the goals of the Economic Recovery Plan are initiated by the Community Development Department, they were not achieved without the help and collaboration of our colleagues in Public Works, Fire, Police, City Attorney's Office, Management Services, and our Public Information Office. The Economic Recovery Plan before you today provides a status update on all of the goals in the report. I will provide details regarding a few of those goals throughout the presentation. One of the most significant accomplishments for economic development has been the closure of San Fernando Boulevard to vehicular traffic. This initiative was developed in partnership with our Public Works Department and the Downtown Burbank Property-Based Business Improvement District, also known as the PBID. To close traffic from Magnolia Boulevard to Angelino Avenue to allow for restaurants to expand their indoor seating outdoors and onto the sidewalks and into the parking stalls. In addition to the restaurant's ability to expand outdoors, the PBID also purchased tables, chairs, and umbrellas to create communal dining areas for customers that want to grab some quick-serve food items and go and enjoy them outdoors. To further enhance the al fresco dining experience, the PBID installed signage, wrapped the water barricades, and installed floor decals on the street to encourage social distancing and remind patrons to wear a mask. The total investment from the PBID was $44,500. The PBID's ambassadors also monitor and clean the communal dining areas daily. The closure is currently in place until January 18th. Staff has started to discuss possible options for what San Fernando Boulevard will look like once indoor dining becomes available and the street closure is lifted. To assist another one of our core commercial areas, known as Magnolia Park, staff has reallocated part of the annual funding that it dedicates to Magnolia Park in the amount of $30,000. Typically, this funding would be used for event maintenance and street closures, and that funding has been reallocated to purchase 7 new holiday decoration swags for the Magnolia Park Merchants Association. The holiday decor will be installed in November. To provide much-needed guidance and information to the business community, Economic Development quickly shifted the in-person Tech Talk entrepreneurial events to online webinar format, providing information to businesses on how to apply for the U.S. Small Business Administration loans, the Paycheck Protection Program, and provided webinars on how to help businesses stay the course and plan for recovery. I'm going to do a shameless plug. We have a webinar tomorrow, October 14th, that starts at 11 a.m., so please sign up for that webinar. The information can be found on www.burbankecondev.com. Thank you. Additionally, through the CARES Act funding, the city was able to provide 50 forgivable loans to businesses and micro enterprises. We are still processing these applications in the order that they were received. I know Councilmember Fructose had requested an update regarding how many Magnolia Park businesses applied for the loan, and while we are working on that memo, I wanted to provide a quick update. There were 7 Magnolia Park businesses that applied for the loan. 1 business was awarded $10,000. 1 business was ineligible for the program, and the other 5 are still currently under review. Finally, to meet the needs of the next generation of the workforce and changes from COVID-19, Economic Development staff is working with Management Services Department to create a new brand identity and purpose for the resources provided through Workforce Connection. There are several notable accomplishments on the housing front as well. To help ensure that local residents are able to live in their homes without the fear of eviction, Burbank adopted an urgency eviction ordinance on March 17th. Then, on July 28th, City Council adopted a new urgency eviction moratorium to further assist renters from being charged late fees, interest, or other penalties due to unpaid rent. To provide assistance to local residents who are in need of financial support for rent, City Council adopted a rental assistance program to provide rent subsidies for Burbank renters facing financial hardship due to COVID-19. The application period opened on June 29th and closed 1 day after reaching 300 applications. Originally, as you can see, we had estimated receiving $360,000 in funding to assist 150 renters. However, I am happy to report that we received just shy of $400,000, and we have already assisted 126 households to date. There are still 30 households on the waiting list, and in addition to the 30 households on the waiting list, staff estimates that we can reopen the program and assist an additional 40 to 60 households. To continue serving the needs of the homeless population, staff applied for grant funding through the Home Queue program to assist in the purchase of the Scott Motel for homeless transitional services. This grant opportunity directly ties to the homeless plan and strategy, creating affordable housing with available funding sources and subsidies. The proposed project, should it move forward, would be in partnership with the Burbank Housing Corporation and a local service provider for the programming. We will hear if we are a recipient of the grant later this month. The Landlord-Tenant Commission meets the first Monday of the month to assist the public with questions, issues, and concerns related to landlords and tenants. Staff also provides information related to staff also answers questions related to the new housing laws, including AB 1482 and AB 3088, and the city's rent repayment ordinance. Additionally, at the request of City Council, staff has been promoting the commission on social media and email outreach. On the transportation front, Burbank Bus fixed route monthly ridership has increased 55% from the COVID-19 low in April 2020. 1/3 of the riders lost due to COVID have returned to riding as of August 2020. Total 2020 year-to-date Pink Route ridership is higher than 2019 ridership, even accounting for COVID-19. The Pink Route expansion implemented in December 2019 more than likely offset the loss in ridership due to COVID-19 on that route. We are also excited to work with the Public Information Office on a mayor's show that highlighted the Pink Bus route. You can view this show on the city's YouTube channel. After the stay-at-home order was issued to close public counters, city staff quickly updated the planning and building permit process in order to continue to provide services to the community. The building and planning permit changed from a paper-based system to an online system. Other online tools in development and are in near completion, such as online garage sale permits and online simple permits, such as water heaters and plumbing fixtures. An upgrade to the city's electronic plan check system, known as Project Docs, will also allow customers access using any internet browser. Construction of major development projects are still underway and have not showed delay or any downtime due to COVID-19. These projects include Warner Brothers Second Century, Burbank Channel Bikeway, Avion Burbank, First Street Village, and Providence St. Joe's Urgent Care Facility. There are also several major projects currently in the plan check process, including AC Hotel, 601 Cedar, 77 Front Street, and the Netflix tenant improvements. For residential permitting and construction, there was a slight delay on the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic when issuing residential permits. Currently, the building division is on track and continues to receive applications for accessory dwelling units. A total of 203 applications for ADUs were received since March 2020, and overall, a little over 1,800 building permits were issued in the same period of time. Staff will present a proposed amendment to the ADU ordinance in November 2020. The amendment to the current ADU regulations will ensure ongoing compliance with applicable state ADU laws. Long-range planning efforts are still on track to facilitate housing, transportation, and economic development and will be completed in 2021. This includes the Golden State Specific Plan, the Housing Element Update, the Downtown Burbank Metrolink Transit-Oriented Development Specific Plan, try saying that a couple of times, and the greenhouse gas reduction. Next steps, we will continue to implement the current policies and goals, and we will continue to work on short-term and long-term goals in the economic recovery plan. Staff recommends that you note and file the status update to the Economic Recovery Plan and direct staff to bring back a report outlining alternatives and recommendations of San Fernando Boulevard and downtown Burbank. This concludes my presentation, and my colleagues in Community Development Department and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for your report. Okay, council members. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
I'd like to thank you for the report and the update. I think this was very important because there's a lot of folks in the community that really don't have a clue what the council or staff are doing as far as the economic recovery, moving our city forward in the situation we're in. But thank you. My only question, in your day-to-day, activities, what type of groups do you, network with to make sure that there's a two-way conversation as far as the business community being able to access you and, kind of give you their thoughts on the recovery of our city, as kind of we're still in the same position because we don't know where the future is going to take us in the next couple months. But I want to know, who are you networking with to, get that two-way conversation?
Sure, I can answer that. We're working with a variety of different people. We are constantly in contact with our property owners. We're constantly sending out surveys to our businesses. Some of the businesses that we have already surveyed on multiple levels are our Downtown Burbank Merchants and our Magnolia Park Merchants Association. They've assisted us in providing surveys to the Magnolia Park area. We're also getting ready to do another survey in the Magnolia Park area as well. So surveys are a really good way for us to gauge how the businesses are doing. We ask multiple questions in that regard. We've also met several times with the Magnolia Park Merchants Association to see how they're doing, how their businesses are doing, and how we can assist them moving forward. We meet monthly with our Downtown Burbank Property-Based Business Improvement District, so we hear from them about what's happening in the downtown community. That board is consisted of property owners and business owners and merchants as well. Again, we're boots on the ground, walking around in downtown. We have our Downtown Burbank ambassadors that are walking around to check and see which businesses are open, do business visits and see how they're doing in this time of COVID and uncertainty. So really that outreach is important. We're also reaching out to the community through our newsletters and our email blasts. We're constantly keeping them informed of everything that's going on through the issues that we're having with COVID, the street closures, what the orders are that are coming out from the county. So there's things of that nature that we're doing with them as well. From a tourism tourism front, we also meet with our TBID and the Hospitality Association. We've sent multiple surveys throughout this time to our hoteliers as well, again, to gauge how they're doing with their occupancy. Some of them were shut down. Will they be able to open? How they feel about the recovery? So we're constantly speaking to the community in that regard.
The only thing I didn't hear you bring up that you're networking with, talking to, is the chamber. I know Councilmember Murphy and I, a couple months ago, met with some of their members who said that the city isn't really reaching out to them, networking with them, giving them the opportunity to have access to you to discuss the economic recovery of our city.
Can I answer that question? Actually, in actuality, we have been meeting with the chamber on a regular basis. When our old CEO, Tom Flavin, was there, he and I and Ms. Hamzoyan would meet once a month to discuss what was going on with the chamber and how we could network with them better. With the new CEO, Jamie Keiser, we've already met with her 2 or 3 times. We've talked to her almost on a bi-weekly basis on things that are happening with the chamber and where the chamber is going. And in actuality, we've been working with them quite closely on a couple of things. One, the State of the City, which is coming up next week. That's my shameless plug. And then also, we've been talking about where the chamber's going in the future and how do we work with them. We've been wanting to do a retention program with them for years since I got here. And so I'm hoping that that's one of the things that we can expand upon and move forward with.
Okay, thank you very much.
Also,
thank
just
you,
to
Madam
add,
Mayor.
Jamie Keiser is also appointed to our tourism board, so she's a part of our board now as well.
Yes, Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mary, thank you for your report. It's very informational, and it's good to know that staff, the city is moving forward with some type of plan. We are looking at what's happening. We don't know where we're going. We don't have any crystal balls, so there's no way of knowing what's going to happen or for how long it's going to happen. It'd be nice to have that crystal ball. If anybody out there has one, please let me know. I'd appreciate being the first one to know that. You have a section here on business surveys where it states, I'm going to read it from the report. City staff continues to have ongoing communications with businesses. 5,605 surveys were distributed in May of 2020 to understand the impact of COVID-19 on businesses and gauge the economic effect of the crisis to better plan for recovery. The next bullet point says responses from business surveys suggest the following. I'd like to know how many responses because it gets into the percentages, which I don't like very much because it doesn't tell me a number. It's not specific to a number. 40% of the businesses who responded, which is what? Right. I don't know. The 100 responded out of the 5,600. Did 5,600 respond? So I could gauge what the 40% equates to. And then 54% of the businesses who responded applied for government funding. There again, a number would be nice as opposed to a percentage, and that just goes throughout some parts of the report that deals only in percentages, which is not really telling me much because I don't have anything to compare it to. So anyway, that's just one of my comments, and hopefully, thank you very much, like I said, and hopefully we recover sooner than later. But nobody knows. So we just, we plan for the worst and hope for the best. Like one of our former mayors used to say, Mayor Galansky. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Murphy.
Yes, Mary, can you tell us about the mall? Because that's now open. How are we doing in terms of reaching out to those folks?
So again, we've been in constant contact. Ooh, I have feedback. We've been in constant contact with mall management.
Let's see if we can figure out whose microphone's on so that we don't get that feedback. Let's hang tight for a second to figure that out. Although,
Is that better?
I think it's better.
Okay, sorry about that. So we have been in constant contact with the mall management, and we just received a list of businesses that were allowed to reopen when the mall was allowed to reopen through the county on October 7th. So I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say roughly about 30% of the interior stores are open for operation. We just recently learned that some of the stores had gone bankrupt. I know New York & Company has closed their doors and they've gone bankrupt. We're still waiting as the stores are beginning to open slowly. Originally, when we went in for a check through the mall on that Friday, H&M was closed. I understand now that they're open. So I think it takes a little bit more time for the businesses to get their employees to come back and start functioning after being closed for such a long period of time. So again, that's another aspect that we're continuously monitoring. We're working with the mall managers, we're working with the brokers for the mall. We're trying to figure out which restaurants and retailers will be coming back, which ones won't be coming back, and what the situation is. So again, that's ongoing monitoring in that regard.
I have a question. Do you know, did the debt sell? The mall debt was for sale, and I heard there were 3 bidders on it. So
I can provide a brief update on that.
Thank you.
They are still they narrowed it down to 3, and they have yet to decide who they're going to go with to buy it. And I don't know who the 3 are. The buyers.
Thank you. Okay, other questions, comments? So this is a note and file, but staff is asking for direction to bring back a report outlining alternatives and recommendations of San Fernando Boulevard in downtown Burbank. And yes, Councilmember Talamantes.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'd like to give staff some direction. I'd like to go back to the old, I'd like one of the alternatives to be what it used to be, the San Fernando Golden Mall. I'd like to have one of those as an alternative for council to discuss and evaluate and see what moving forward, how it could happen, how long might it take to happen. And, I also, there was an idea that was proposed to me, make San Fernando 1 lane, 1 way, which would create more space for the businesses. I mean, if we want to bring them out and, be part of kind of like the Montrose, up there in Montrose, where they have that meandering, right? I don't know the name of the street, but that's 2 ways. But I would suggest possibly 1 way that would create more space, because I know up in Montrose, building to building, property line to property line, there's greater space than there is here in Burbank. So by creating just 1 lane, 1 way would allow for more spacing.
Right. I think that's in the complete streets plan, isn't it? One of the scenarios for San Fernando. So you don't necessarily need to hear all of our different ideas right now, right? Because I have some too. So, we could be here till midnight, right? We don't want that. So we just would like the alternatives to come back and recommendations. Okay.
I'll recommend note and file and bring back the alternatives.
Yes. Okay, so you're all set. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
It was very helpful.
Thank you.
The last report this evening is for consideration of a resolution condemning Azerbaijan's aggression in Artsakh. Will Christine Ellis please present the report?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Christine Ellis, analyst with the City Manager's Office. Tonight's report is in response to Councilmember Murphy's request for consideration of a resolution condemning Azerbaijani aggression in Nagorno-Karabakh, also known as Artsakh. Artsakh is a disputed territory situated between Azerbaijan and Armenia. While internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, over 90% of the population of Artsakh is ethnically Armenian, and the region is governed by the self-proclaimed Republic of Artsakh, which has economic, political, and military ties to Armenia. Following the end of the Nagorno-Karabakh War in 1994, a ceasefire was enacted between the two nations, and the Minsk Group, whose members include the United States, has been working towards a stable and lasting peace in the region. Armed hostilities, however, broke out the last week of September, with reports of Azeri artillery fire on several cities within the Artsakh region, including the capital city of Stepanakert and Burbank's friendship city of Hadrut. Azerbaijan's second largest city, Ganja, has reported damage from shelling by Armenian military forces. Hundreds of civilian casualties have been incurred on both sides. Purportedly, Turkey is providing military support to Azerbaijan in the form of soldiers, weapons, and training. In recent weeks, several demonstrations against the violence in Artsakh have occurred across the globe and locally throughout the Los Angeles region, including Burbank. The city councils of Glendale and Los Angeles have approved resolutions calling for federal action to condemn Azeri aggression, demand a cessation of hostilities, cut off military aid to Azerbaijan, and work with the Minsk Group to establish peace. On October 1st, Representative Jackie Speer introduced House Resolution 1165, co-authored by Burbank's congressional representatives, Adam Schiff and Brad Sherman, which condemns Azerbaijan's military operations in Artsakh, denounces Turkey's reported participation in the conflict, supports an immediate return to the ceasefire agreement, and reaffirms support for efforts of the Minsk Group to resolve the regional conflict. LA County Supervisors Catherine Barger and Hilda Solis have issued a letter in support of House Resolution 1165. While City Council has not taken action in the past on international matters, Council may choose to consider a resolution condemning Azeri aggression in Artsakh, in line with actions taken by other elected officials in the Los Angeles region. Council may also consider the issuance of a letter, either as an elected body or as individuals, in support of House Resolution 1165. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Okay, Council, comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Murphy.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Isles, for your report. I would recommend that we pick option number 3, that we direct staff to draft and issue a letter of support from the City Council for our federal representatives on, is it HS?
House Resolution 1165.
House Resolution 11. Thank you.
Councilmember Gabaletti?
Is that a motion, Councilmember Murphy? Because I'm in.
Yes.
Okay, so you second it? Seconded by Councilmember Gabaletti. Okay.
Councilmember Murphy?
Wait, one
Madam
second.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember
Before we
Talamantes.
can take a vote, could I ask a couple of things, please?
Of course.
So the motion is to send a letter of support? Is that what that is, Mr. Murphy?
Yes, sir.
Would my colleagues entertain a motion for a resolution as well?
Sure.
Okay, I move that, well, I don't want to make it a substitute motion, but to include in the original motion a resolution from the City of Burbank in support.
Okay. Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Okay, thank you.
But isn't that what we're doing with item number 3? It's the same thing, except that we're sending it directly to our representative in line with the Board of Supervisors that, hey, we want to, we're taking a position on this, but we're also supporting it. Isn't that the same thing?
No, not really.
Explain.
Well,
Explain what's the difference.
A resolution is a more official document than a letter of support.
But we could,
I can see that.
But we're taking an official position. We're directing staff on city letterhead that the council's united, and we're standing for the House of Representatives 1162 resolution moving forward. I mean, I think that's the right thing to do.
Okay.
Just my thoughts. I mean,
There's a motion and a second, so.
Yes, Councilmember Gabeletti.
I'm going to ask the maker of the motion. You mean that we would all sign the letter in support?
Yes.
I mean, we need to be clear. We need to state our position. We all need to sign that letter, and
so what is?
Yeah, to me that's powerful right there. Our action, and most important, we're letting our legislators to really move this forward at the national level of the importance of this. I think is really important.
Right. Well, can we do both?
I agree with you.
Councilmember Talamantes, you wanted to do a letter and a resolution, right? Is there any harm in doing both?
It's fine. Sure.
Okay.
It's okay with me.
Okay.
It's just redundant, right? That's okay. Is there a problem with that?
No, but if you want to do it, you need to either have a substitute motion or have the maker and the second agree to add that to the motion, whatever way you decide.
Okay.
It's fine, whatever you want to do.
I think, who was the maker?
Okay, so we can do both.
I'm fine with that. Both is good.
Okay, so you amend your motion. Is that what you would like?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Councilmember Gabeletti.
I'm with the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it? A letter and a resolution. And Councilmember Murphy made the motion and it was seconded by, yes.
Emily?
Councilmember Gabeletti, I think Councilmember Talamantes would like to speak to you.
No. You mentioned you were kind of thinking who made the second. I was just saying that Emily made the second.
Emily made the second. Councilmember
you.
Gabeletti made the second.
Right.
Okay, Councilmember Murphy,
Yes.
Councilmember Gabeletti,
Yes.
Councilmember Talamantes,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Frutos,
Yes.
and Mayor Springer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Springer, I just wanted to note that we can, the letter, we can get together and have all of the council members sign that, but it appears that the resolution should probably come back on a consent agenda for you to all approve. If that's okay with everyone. So we can do the letter and have that dealt with and signed by all of the council members. But then we would bring that resolution back on a consent agenda for your approval.
That sounds good.
Thank you. Okay. This is the time for brief council comments, including reporting on council committee assignments. Who'd like to start? Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Going back on Wednesday, October the 7th, I participated with the virtual meetings with the League of California Cities. I also attended the Los Angeles County Division General Membership Meeting. And I also took a tour of the new facility of the Boys and Girls Club, which is the old Salvation Army site. On Friday, October the 9th, I attended the League of California Cities General Assembly meeting, obviously virtual. And that is all I have to report. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members.
Thank you. Next. Yes, Councilmember Gabeletti.
I can't see my hands when I put my hand up. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I too attended the League of California Cities, the lunch meeting, which is very good. Also, the Burbank Transportation Management Organization's regular meeting on Thursday, October 8th, which is just 1 hour, and once again, it was really excellent. And then on Saturday, I attended a webinar conference by Livable California. This organization is a nonprofit organization, was very active in organizing people against the sort of flawed approach of our state legislators regarding housing. And one of the things that the speaker pointed out in this last meeting, there's an organization called the Embarcadero Institute. It's run by a woman named Gab Lehman, I believe her last name is. She's a demographer, and she went over the way the state developed the regional housing needs assessment numbers and took a position that the basis for going forward with these numbers was flawed. And so it's a very statistical look at some of the problems with some of the policy issues that come from the state and we get at the local level. It's always very informative, so I encourage council members to attend again. I know the mayor's been on, I know council member Talamantes has listened in to some of those meetings. The one thing she did point out so clearly was, in terms of our regional housing needs assessment and the housing production, it seems almost all focused on market rate. And to really get meaningful affordable housing beyond 12% or 15% or even 20%, we really do need subsidies. Cities need to work, need funding to get this kind of thing done. So it's a good and very rational discussion. I encourage people to listen to it. livablecalifornia.org. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Talamantes.
Madam Mayor. Basically the same thing. I attended the opening general session of the League of California Cities annual conference. I also attended the Los Angeles County Division general membership meeting. I had a briefing as vice chair of the General Resolutions Committee. The chair, myself, and staff had a briefing about how we're going to proceed with our General Resolutions meeting, which was held on Thursday. Once again, the conference continued on Thursday. We had a general session in the morning, and then in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, the General Resolutions Committee met and passed the only resolution that we were in charge of. We passed it 2-1. And apparently what I heard was that when it went to the general session, there was not a quorum. There was not a quorum for the board members to follow up on. I don't. Maybe Ms. Albano were you at the session where it came before you?
So
on Friday?
Thank you. If you don't mind, Madam Mayor, very quickly, it did not come back to the board because our board meeting was actually on Tuesday, and I was on that part of the conference, like listening to what was happening with the resolution in the general. And my understanding is there was not a quorum. They were trying to see if they could achieve one. My further understanding is it says in the bylaws that when there isn't a quorum, then that is the board is just sent an advisement of what happened. So I guess more to come in December, whether the board's going to take it up, because that's not quite what the bylaw said. So, and being somewhat new, this hasn't happened before since I've been on the board, so I'm not sure what's going to happen.
No, it hasn't. You're right.
But that's the upshot where we are now. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Murphy.
Yeah, I also toured the Boys and Girls Club, the new facility. I attended the Burbank Coordinating Council meeting, and they had a really excellent presentation from FSA. And that's it.
Thank you. I also attended the Burbank Transportation Management Organization meeting. What a great group, and it was an excellent meeting. And I did vote affirmatively on the resolution, and you are right, there was no quorum, and they said that the vote would be advisory to the league. I participated in the donation. I went by the donation drive at the existing Boys and Girls Club that was put on by the Chamber Young Professionals, and toured also the proposed Boys and Girls Club location. And it's just very exciting. The building is just, they're made for them, I think. I mean, they need to do some work on it, but it's a good fit. And last night, I virtually attended the PFLAG meeting, which is in support of our LGBTQ community. So they are ongoing with their meetings. And that's it for me. Now is the time for additional agenda items. Do members of the council have any items to introduce? Yes, Vice Mayor Frutos.
Madam City Manager, I'd like on a one-step, two-step for council consideration, the Mariposa Bridge in the Rancho. If the history serves me right, Gene Autry was the one that paid for it. I was wondering if this can come back on a one-step, two-step for council's consideration to formally put a plaque on the Mariposa Bridge, who paid for, to honor Gene Autry, because it was his, enough said, I can't discuss it no more. The city attorney's not looking at me right now, so I'm doing good.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Yes.
no, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Murphy?
Yeah, I'm going to stumble around here a little bit, and city attorney better watch me. I have a lot of concerns about the alleged protest that happened at Trader Joe's, and I know we received a report on it earlier tonight from the police department, but my concern is this is not a traditional protest. This is something that is designed to perhaps impact a business. In fact, Trader Joe's closed for several hours. I don't know if they had to do deep cleaning. I don't know if they had to retest their employees. But this is the kind of thing that hurts our recovery. This is the kind of thing that hurts businesses that are trying to make a comeback. And a number of people have seen it as a potential to affect the election, that maybe this is a dry run to attack our voting centers. I'm just not sure what to do. I mean, there seems to be two options. One, to make a mandatory mask ordinance, which we haven't wanted to do yet. But
1 second, Councilmember Murphy.
Councilmember Murphy, we've talked about this. So if you could just say what you'd like to bring back, I think that's the important thing. So if you want to bring back a discussion about what happened, or a discussion on masks, or what we should do, if that's okay. So I'm trying to get you to narrow and not give all of your opinions about.
You're right. I thought I was doing that. I was saying, I think we have one option would be to bring back a mask ordinance. I think the other option would be to create some kind of a criminal statute, that if somebody impacts a business like this, I would think a protest would stay outside and not cause the kind of damage that is here, and the potential for damage. And there ought to be some way to keep this from happening again. I know it's not much, but I'm stumbling around for an idea, and I'm concerned. I'm expressing concern. And
okay, thank you.
Maybe I'll do better next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll keep thinking on it.
Okay. I would like to bring back the alternative ways to set speed limits. And I guess as it relates, as a combination of with our legislative platform, and okay. We now adjourn Oh, I have a question that a caller followed up with me for, and he had a question about, his question was, is it illegal for us to move $4 million from the general fund to the schools? Can we answer that for him or do it offline with you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would much rather that you ask me offline.
Okay.
Normally, a city doesn't just give money to another public entity. There are issues around that. But oftentimes, cities, as we have, do have joint agreements, other things that have been done. There is, there's other ways to do things. But just to say we're going to move money from a city's general fund to a school district could be very problematic, but there are ways to achieve, obviously, sharing resources.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We now adjourn to Tuesday, October 27th, 2020 at 6:00 p.m. for a regular meeting through an online meeting process. The public may view the meeting online or on television and will be able to provide public comment in the following 3 ways: by leaving an e-comment on the city website, burbankca.gov/e-comments, by emailing the city council directly at citycouncil@burbankca.gov, by calling in directly to the council meeting at 818-238-3335. Thank you, and good night.